All right, here we go. Welcome to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk, episode 3 of season 2.
Yeah.
So we're back with no audio issues this time.
Yep. We learned our lesson.
Yep. I'm actually checking the audio levels now to make sure it's coming in. Yep. I've got my phone here to kind of run the computer all the way over there.
And this time I've been told and instructed to speak a little bit closer to the mic.
Just a smidge.
Because last time I was very quiet.
Yeah. It's all good, though. It was your first time really doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So that, there was that. So we got a few things to talk about today regarding Star Wars before we get to our book review.
The meat of our...
Yeah, where I think we'll spend another hour kind of just talking, because I've noticed that with the books we get really excited.
Yeah, because there's stories, and stories are exciting.
And there's just a lot of good content.
Yeah,
like it's
a
not
lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, especially in this one. But let's go ahead and jump into our first story, which is that the executive producer of the Empire at War video games recently talked about the fact that there might be more Empire at War video games in the near future for Star Wars. It all comes down to timing, is what he said. Do you have any opinions on the Empire at War video games? Do you know what they are?
I don't know what they are.
Okay.
So I can't offer an opinion on something I don't know about.
Do you like Age of Empires or strategy games like that? Or Stronghold?
No,
any
I
like
don't.
StarCraft?
No.
The original Warcraft games?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't like those.
Okay, so you don't like strategy games. Okay, well, Empire War then might not be for you. It's a
Probably
strategy game.
not.
It's a real-time strategy game series. They did 2 games. Well, 1 game and then the second game is really an expansion because you can play it standalone, but it's stuff that adds on top of the original game more than it being a sequel. Because it's Empire at War and then Empire at War. I forget the name of the second one all of a sudden, but you can get them nowadays in like a gold pack, which is with both of them, and it's a little bit of space and ground. So you have the ground one, which is more like your classic like Age of Empires, craft type games. I
don't.
StarCraft, Warcraft. It's very much. You create your troops and then you move them around and stuff like that. And then there's the space battles, which are similar, but usually you only have the limited resources of whatever ships you brought to the battle. And for the most part, the main campaign is like this grand, like almost like you played Battlefront 2, like classic Battlefront 2, not the new one.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so.
There's like a strategy side of it to where you can like go from planet to planet and start like trying to conquer galactic conquest. And there's a similar sort of galactic conquest thing with the main stories of the Empire at War games where you pick your side, your faction, and then you go from there. So,
yeah, I'm not.
So it sounds like Empire at War might not interest you if they come back.
But
I'm not great at them, but I like them. They're fun. Like until I can't win, and then I walk away for a month, and then I go back, and I'm like, I kind of want to play this again.
Sounds like a terrible relationship.
just a little, but it's because like it's one of those things where I just grew up, like I enjoy Empire War because of the other games I associate it with.
Yeah.
Because I was introduced to Empire War in a Best of PC pack, which came with a bunch of other good Star Wars games. Came like with other four other Star Wars games that I like.
Oh man!
Because it came with Knights of the Republic. I mean, obviously, you know me, so
yeah. I think that might have tainted your view on this one.
It also came with Jedi Outcast.
Oh.
It came with Republic Commando and Battlefront 1.
Yeah, I think I could see it.
Yeah, and then also a free month of Star Wars Galaxies. Back before the Galaxies purge, because they had to get Lucasfilm I guess was worried about 2 Star Wars MMOs competing against each other, because around that time the Old Republic was getting ready to launch.
Oh yeah.
And so they were like, yeah, Star Wars Galaxies is gonna die.
Gotta quell that competition.
Which doesn't it does and it doesn't make sense to me because they're two different types of like MMOs. One's a sandbox game where you just do whatever, and like there's some guidance of a story, but it's not really there. It's more of a sim sort of game. And then the other one is heavy story, BioWare video game.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I would be interested if they do it. I'd be interested to see though if it'd be canon stories that they want to do, like kind of bring in like do what they did with Battlefront, where they relaunch it, sort of, but it's still part of the same franchise. But it's now they can go, oh, this is canon material, and that would interest me. I guess we'll kind of stay on the video game track for a bit.
Yeah.
Because we got like 2 more pieces of video game news.
Oh boy.
One of them is they both relate to the same game, so it kind of fits that we're just gonna stay on this track.
All right.
Next up is so if you have Amazon Prime, you better be logging in because on Prime Gaming you can get Jedi Fallen Order for free this month if you do not already have it. So now's definitely the time to get it, and I would suggest it. It's a very good game. He's seen me play it.
Yep.
The story
is incredibly worthwhile.
Yeah, the story.
From what I've seen,
the story definitely makes it worth
the
it.
gameplay looks pretty fun.
Yeah, if you like, it's Souls light. It's Souls light.
Well, it strikes me as very similar because I think they had some.
They have.
Team
they have somewhere. I think they had some people there, but it was mostly from Respawn. But I think they were probably inspired.
Yeah,
is probably the better word. Because like they have the rest zones similar to the bonfires, and then they've got the combat is very much. It reminds me of the older, like going back Jedi Outcast, Jedi. It reminds me of the Jedi Knight games a little bit. So I'm kind of happy to see that. And because there's a little bit of strategy to it, and similar to the Souls games, you have a little bit of a. You have to think on the fights. You can't.
Yeah, you can't just rush in.
Yeah, which makes sense, especially for your character. You're a Jedi who didn't complete his training whatsoever. You were a Padawan.
I hope you're ready for a long and grueling.
Yeah. Also, be ready for to see Order 66 again.
Yep.
If you haven't played it, because you're just gonna get another viewing of Order 66. Star Wars seems to enjoy taking us back to Order 66 a bunch, which I don't mind because we're getting different perspectives of it, and I don't mind seeing a fresh perspective of it. It just would it. I'm ready to kind of move on from it a little bit.
We get it.
Yeah. Sticking with Jedi Fallen Order though, and how good of a game and how well it's been received by fans. So there's been rumors of a sequel for a while now. People have seen listings of jobs from EA and Respawn that fit the description of what you would want for a sequel. Mm-hmm. And currently the big news that has been going around is that there is rumors that an official announcement will be made before E3 of this year.
We're calling you out, EA.
Yeah.
No, we're not. We're
not really
going to make that claim.
But yeah, so before E3 of this year, we should get an announcement is what we're hearing, which would be nice. And that would also tell me that maybe not this year, but maybe next year we get the sequel, depending on, how much development time there's been already into it.
Got spam call from Florida.
Yeah, you're good. So yeah, are you excited to kind of? I mean, I know you probably won't immediately play it. You'll probably hang out with me while I play it.
Yeah, that'll probably be what happens.
Well, I'll make you play it for the show.
You'll make me play it
for the show.
Oh no!
because I'm gonna make you play the first one.
You're gonna make me play the first one too?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Whenever that's down the line, obviously. Like that's probably not. That's definitely not gonna be this season.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Get ready
because I don't think because current schedule we're not getting out of the High Republic this season.
That's true. We do have a lot of ground to cover. Okay, here's the forewarning for that. When that happens, expect a mix of
I'll put it on the easiest setting. How about that?
expect exasperated sighing and me getting lost at 1 or 2 points because I can't find the enemies anymore. Because that's usually how I figure out where to go.
All right.
But I feel like we've digressed a little
Yeah,
bit. off
we've been on track a little bit.
Okay.
Because we're still talking about Jedi Fallen
Yeah.
Order. So, I guess, are you excited that a sequel is coming?
Yeah, I kind of want to see where it goes.
A lot of people do, and I saw this really great idea that I hope they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would love Merrin to be the main character. That's the Night Sister.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see.
I would
that.
love to play as Merrin.
Okay, Marin, what were you doing for like
Yeah,
16 years?
yeah. Like, what happened between you experiencing the complete and total annihilation of your people
to this
to when you meet Cal Kestis, and maybe continue the story from there, but from her perspective.
Yeah.
And that would be fun. You know, we've never really played as a Night Sister before in any video game whatsoever.
Nope.
The closest we have of the Night Sister culture is with Ventress, and Clone Wars and the books and a little bit of like Legends material. So it would be fun, and using the Force as a Night Sister would be totally different than using it as
because they don't have
they have the Force, but they don't use it the same way.
Yeah, no.
They like draw upon a different thing, even different than the Sith.
Yeah.
Like, it's this almost like fell magic from Warcraft.
It's very confusing. I don't understand how it works, but I don't understand a lot of things, so that's par for the course.
Yeah, so I think it would be interesting playing as her. So let's kind of move on. We got 2 more things before we get to the book review. Yeah. So Book of Boba Fett came out last week.
Yeah.
And so at this point, there's now been 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We are, of course, waiting to talk about it once the season ends, or series, depending, because it's probably going to just be this one limited series. But that may change because the Book of Boba Fett had a viewer rating that beat out Hawkeye.
It is
on its premiere episode.
At the
it's
moment.
unclear if it's episode by episode because, like, the article I found didn't like specify.
Yeah.
But so Hawkeye had a rating of 1.5 million viewers.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's not the best that Disney Plus has had. Currently, Loki still holds out as the best with 2-point-something million. Mandalorian, the numbers aren't officially out, so nobody really knows. I would assume those numbers are pretty high too, though, because Mandalorian was the flagship show for Disney Plus. And then, meanwhile, Book of Boba Fett on its premiere episode has 1.7 million.
Hey, that's coming out strong.
Yeah, that's coming out really strong. And while there's been a bit of discourse on how people feel about the show, mostly from people that are kind of upset with what they perceive as changes to Boba Fett's character, but we don't know enough about Boba Fett for there to really be changes, in my opinion. At least within canon. Like, the most we know is that he's a bounty hunter. The most we know is really about his childhood. As an adult, we don't know much about him. And that's including with canon comic books, like with the Bounty Hunter comic series. He's still, like, vague. He's a vague character who comes in and, like, picks up Han Solo, loses Han Solo because other people stole him, and then gets him back, and manages to bring him to Jabba. And kind of has a hate, but has to work with other bounty hunters type of working relationship. But, I mean, I think the show is good so far, and you haven't watched any episodes yet.
I haven't watched it, so I can't give my judgment on it.
But which we'll sit down at some point. I was hoping to sit down yesterday and watch some, but we didn't get a chance. Yeah. Like, by the time you got there for yesterday's show, we had to get going, pretty much. All All right, so the last piece of news kind of goes with our book review. So the High Republic Phase 2 has been announced since we are in the last wave of Phase 1, as the last few books are coming out for Phase 1. So there was a very lovely video that Star Wars on their YouTube channel did, where they, talked to the authors that have been involved with the project, and were like, hey, how do you feel now that it's been a year of High Republic content, because we are now in the anniversary of High Republic content being out. And then they talked a little bit about the future of it. And one of the last things that gets brought up before the show ends is the setting for the High Republic. 150 years before Phase 1. So I know you're going to hate me because of how our show works.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to have to go back we're going to go back when those books come out anyways, because we'll discuss that at the end of this episode.
Caleb, one day I'm going to sit down with like a whiteboard and mark out all of the things on the timeline.
You're going to be like, it's going to be like, oh, you haven't seen this episode of Always Sunny yet. It's going to be like the meme, though. That's the meme with Charlie in front of the board with his conspiracy theory board, just going, and that's connected, and that's connected.
For those of you who don't know, I like to watch things in chronological order so it makes sense. This man, it's got me all sorts of fucked up with this.
I will send you the Wikipedia link to the chronological order of stuff. I'm ignoring some of the order because I am counting. So one of the things I don't like on Wikipedia's timeline is how for certain things that are flashbacks, that's when they set it.
Oh, I see.
Or they'll set it on the timeline based on when the book starts and not when the book ends. So like if the book covers years, they put it at the starting point, and I'm like, no, it goes at the end point for me, because that's when it ends. And if I'm gonna read everything chronologically, I want to be able to read this with the context of knowing all this other stuff that's already happened, and not be reading into the future.
Yeah. All right.
So that's kind of but yeah, I'll send you the link to that at some point. We'll do that as the season finale.
Yeah, me trying to figure out,
try to make sense of what we've gone over so far.
Yeah. Why did character 49B die here? They're supposed to be at this battle 7 years later.
What's going on with Wreath? What's going on with Geode?
Yeah, we'll get it.
Yeah, which we're about. Now's a great time because that's the last of the Star Wars news.
Yeah. All right.
So let's kind of get right into what's next.
So, Into the Dark.
Yes. So we had a week to read this.
Yeah.
And we actually, we did good.
I thought
you did a lot better than me, because I
thought I had a lot less time.
Yeah, because on Tuesday I was halfway through the book, and then because I brought the book because I was reading it at work whenever work was slow.
Yeah.
Because I was doing both the audiobook and reading, and so whenever I was at work, I would stop the audiobook and actually read the physical book where I left off. And I was keeping track, so I had a bookmark, so that way I would bookmark the audio, because when I do the audiobook, if I'm not driving, I will read the book with the audiobook.
Yeah.
And so I had a physical bookmark with me to bookmark where we were at, and then whenever I'm at work, I stop the audiobook and then just read the book. That way I'm not distracting anybody at work while we're slow.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just do the audiobook though.
So
while at work. You, on the other hand, have the book.
I have the book.
Because I sent you the ebook, and I've already sent you the ebook for our next book. But yeah, so I get halfway through it, and I show up at your place, and the ebook is like 300-something pages, while the physical book is 400-something, and I think it's because of just the height. Yeah. Like, the print makes it to where, pages are a little bit different. But yeah, so I got done. I was halfway through it. I get to your house for Tuesday to hang out, and I'd say I'm halfway through it and I want to talk about it, and you're like, I'm just on page 70,
Yeah.
which is like chapter 6 or something of that at that point. Out of like 20 something, 26, 27 chapters.
Like
It's
yeah,
it's like
something
the,
like
the
that.
high 20s.
Out of I'll check it. 'cause I
No,
was
yeah.
at the-
It's like 20 to 30 chapters. I wish this book had like actual like. I kind of wish it had like 24 chapters. 24 chapters, and that's so 25 with a prologue because there's a prologue, and then we'll ignore the. I think there's 5 flashback mini chapters,
Yeah.
so that makes it about 30. That makes it 30 chapters. So, and you've managed to make it through the first 2 flashbacks, I think, by then. So I was pretty confident. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna finish this before him. And then like 2 days ago, you were like, oh, I finished it, and I was like, oh, I still have like 4 more chapters.
Because I was
But I was also doing like, I also paced myself,
yeah.
which is what I'm going to do with all the books we read. I'm going to kind of pace myself where I have like a certain number of chapters per day I want to read.
Yeah. I didn't do that. I was like 2 hours a day
Yeah.
should
Which you can fly through the book. Like, I'm pretty sure, so I also have it on Kindle.
290.
Yeah, I have the book on Kindle, and I'm pretty sure like 2 hours a day will get you halfway through the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like in one day.
Uh
Because, you know, Kindle tracks like you're reading, and it goes, oh, how many like how quick are you at reading? And it, like, for me at least, that's what it was looking at. Because I also would do the Kindle book every now and then when, like, if I forgot the physical book, I would just go, well, I guess I'm reading the Kindle book, and then so yeah, I've got like 3 copies of this book, and I have like 3. I'm gonna have 3 copies of that one. One of them is on the way. So let's kind of, I guess, get into the plot.
Get into it. So, let's have a discussion about our protagonist, one Mr. Wreath Silas.
Yeah, Mr. Bookworm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we kind of start in the prologue with him on like a practice mission, sort of.
Yeah, it's a practice mission. It has the same feel as
Makes me almost think of the first mission in Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII.
I was going to go with the where they're chasing the first bounty hunter in Attack of the Clones.
Oh yeah, yeah, not quite that high stakes, but like
the stakes aren't as high, but it is a chase.
Yeah, and so yeah, and you know,
and Wreath is a bookworm. He does. Throughout the entire novel,
he's just like, I just want to
like,
be on Coruscant. I just want to read my books.
Yeah,
I am good with the lightsaber, but I just don't want to do it.
Yeah,
yeah, because he has, you know, because the book makes it clear, like, he's a pretty good Jedi.
Yeah,
like if he wanted to, he could do pretty much anything. Like, but he wants to be an academic. That's just his field that he likes, and they make it clear that obviously Jedi need all sorts. They need academics. They need you know, fighters. They need, you know, everybody. And that's why Jedi, like, you know, it's important to be well rounded.
Yeah. At the same time, so they go and they chase down the pirates.
Yeah,
I think?
Yeah. It was like some pirates.
Yeah. It's just some random no-name pirates, and they're like, his master criticizes him a little bit at the end. I don't remember her name.
Oh, Jorah Molly. And
there we go.
She will be important when we go back to the adult novel that's during this phase.
But she's basically criticizes him like, hey, don't. Although you overanalyzed a little bit,
you did all right.
You did good enough. Like, at the end of it, you did what was needed to be done.
Yeah. Which is something that we will get to a little more, because he tends to...
He has a problem with that.
Like, he's overly critical of himself, which is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
I would say it's both his greatest strength and weakness.
Yeah. So that happens. And then they're like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah, because basically that we were immediately told at the end of the prologue, oh, by the way, we're being stationed on Starlight Beacon because Jorah Mormolly's supposed to be the one in charge of the station.
Yeah.
And so
that leaves Reith on his own, basically.
Well, she's bringing Reith with her, but she's just like, we're going to the like outer rim.
Oh, and I forgot he fucking is like, I hate this idea.
He's like, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. I want to be, bookworm.
And she basically is like,
she's like, it's kind of necessary for us to go wherever we need to.
Yeah, and I think she heads out like a day or two.
Yeah,
before.
she leaves beforehand. Yes. And she's like, you got time to say bye to your friends, pack up, and then you're going to go on this. She basically tells him, I've set up your transportation.
Yeah.
You'll meet me at Starlight Beacon.
Yeah.
And so he goes to a party where he basically sulks.
Like the other.
It's his going away party. Everybody's hype. They're having drinks.
He's like, and I think one of them's like, hey man, why aren't you having fun?
Yeah,
and
it's like this. It's like this girl that like they kind of hint likes him.
Yeah,
and it's just like, hey, why aren't you having fun? We get that it's your going away party, but come on, we got drinks. Let's live a little.
I think he's like, man, I fucking hate this. Why would I want this?
And she's just like, okay, whatever. I guess.
Fucking downer.
Yeah. He does end up drinking though, which it's important that we mark that because the next day, he realized... No, it's the same day. I think the party is the same day, yeah.
Yeah, it's like an hour before he's got to leave.
So he's drinking heavily.
Yeah.
It's implied. Because he goes to where the spaceport is, and he's not feeling great whatsoever. But he's trying to hide it. Because,
that's right. He's fucking hammered.
Yeah. And he's trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Which is not great because the person he runs into, who is also going to be on the ship with him, is Jorah Mormolly's former apprentice, Des Ryden.
Yeah.
Who is...
Des is the opposite.
Des is the opposite.
Reith.
Yeah.
He's always ready to fucking go.
Yeah. But he also like understands Reith.
It's
like,
also, to me, the way
because it's like a big brother relationship.
Yeah, that's the way I interpret it. The way... And this is one of the weird ways that my brain, like, sort of... So basically, Jorah Mormolly's the mom.
Yep. Yeah, no, you're right. Des Ryden was her
Des
firstborn.
Ryden is, like, the older brother of the group.
Yeah.
Of the two of them.
And then you got her young... And she's like, oh, I trained Des so well. He's a great boy.
Yeah.
Although he gets... Although
been,
she does get on to Des a little bit about his...
like, you like jumping into the fray way too often.
Yeah, too much fighting.
Quickly.
You need to tone it down just a bit. Let the Force kind of guide you a little bit. Meanwhile, her second-born is the complete opposite, and so she's having to train him to be more like Des to a degree. In fact, Des and him kind of have sparred together, which is why
a lot of the
Reith's
other
combat
are jealous of that. Actually,
and it's why Reith's combat skills are as good as they are at this point.
Fuck, what was it?
But Des can Des can tell
immediately knows, but Reith is like, she's seen him way more sloshed than this. I'm not gonna be in trouble at all. And Des knows.
So speaking of like the drinking and all this, as I read this, I have questions that came to my mind. Immediately because Des is 16.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, 16. He's 16.
I don't know. I didn't look up their
because they mention it at one point, I think. And then because other characters are like a year older than him we'll talk about in a bit. In fact, we're going to come up on them very soon. But my question is, what is the drinking age in the Star Wars universe? Is it 16?
I think it's when you kill your first person.
Like, is it 16? Because like they talk about how like what they're doing, like the party and all that, is not illegal at like the youngling.
It's like frowned upon, but it's just not illegal.
Yeah, because that's exactly the phrasing they use. They're like, oh yeah, the Padawan should not be having like this heavy party, but they're not gonna get like put in trouble.
They're not gonna be like arrested.
No, but it makes me wonder, like, is there a drinking limit? Because like I would assume that it wouldn't just be 16 and older that would hang out with Wreath. I would assume there'd be some of his younger classmates too.
I would assume it's basically like, I guess like where maybe
because on
14,
like
15 maybe.
Yeah, because like in America it's 21.
Yeah,
but like I know a lot of other countries it's
Europe
16.
And others it's a lot.
Yeah, but I think it's even younger than that because
I'm thinking it's got to be like 14 or something in Star Wars.
Claudia, since you wrote this book, or Pablo, since you're the like lore guy, I need answers on the drinking age in the Star Wars universe. We're probably not going to get answers from Claudia. I would love answers from Claudia because I love her books, but she also probably doesn't know either. She's probably told by like somebody else, like Pablo.
Yeah.
So these are questions I need answers to, especially for our role-playing games, because I just need the little intimate details like that for world building.
Yeah. Continuing on though. Meet the rest of our little gang of.
So Dez is not the only other fellow Jedi that's going aboard this ship, which is not here yet. By the way,
it's not here yet.
It's an empty parking lot, and
it's basically what it is.
Like they walk to the docking bay, and they're just like it's kind of like the scene in A New Hope where they walk to the docking bay. Only this time the Millennium Falcon's not there.
Yeah, it's basically empty.
Yeah, and they're just like, "Where's our ship? It's like an hour late."
Yeah,
and so like two other Jedi show up. Cormus,
I think
Comac Vitus, who is a Jedi Master.
Yeah,
and
who's an archivist.
Yeah, he's an archivist. He studies.
He's also a nerd.
Yeah, he's also a nerd. So him and Wreath get along very well.
Yeah,
Comac more studies though like cultural stuff. Like he studies culture of other like other planets and stuff, and that's kind of his thing. And then our other Jedi is a very interesting one, Orla Jareni.
Yep. She's also like the same age as Comac.
Yeah, like they were apprentices
does
together.
Not act like it.
No, she acts.
Like,
I'd argue
whereas Comac acts like a 70-year-old librarian, she acts like she's in her mid-20s and has nothing to lose.
And I imagine they're both like around their 40s.
Like they have to be,
especially since they're the focus of the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Which are like 20. It's 25 years earlier. But But yeah, Comac is your archivist, and then Orla is very interesting because she very recently made a declaration to the Jedi Council that she is taking the path of the Way Seeker. Yeah,
yep,
Way Seeker.
There we go.
Which is a specific type of Jedi that does not follow the direct orders of the Jedi Council, but follows the Force instead. Basically, where the Force guides her.
Yep.
And she's like one of the first in a while that has taken this path.
Yeah, they're kind of like. Okay.
This is a path. This is an option that Jedi can take, especially during the High Republic.
Yeah.
It's more frequent in the High Republic, and we see less of it as we get closer to the prequel era.
Yeah. It does have like a weird feel of like everyone's kind of like, okay, I guess that's what you want to do.
Yeah, like
they're not upset. No, they're not disappointed.
But they're just curious.
Like, okay.
And they're kind of just like, oh, I wonder why she took that.
Yeah. Like.
But which we learn
why.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're waiting on the ship, and finally this like junky ship that's not like they're thinking public transport's coming, but no, it's like this private ship that comes like landing, and it's very small. Yeah. Like compared to like what they were thinking, because you got 4 passengers just from our Jedi alone who are going aboard this ship. Oh
man, who are we gonna start with?
I feel like we should start with the first face that we see, which is Leox.
Yeah. For some reason, throughout my entire like reading of this book, anytime Leox spoke, I can only imagine the longest Southern drawl with every.
What's great is how accurate you are to the audiobook.
Like he sound the way that he speaks sounds like he is high as a motherfucker, and every sentence is carried incredibly long.
Yes. So let's describe this man a little bit. I feel like we have to.
I forgot what
he wears an unbuttoned shirt all the way down. Like this unbuttoned white tee all the way down.
He even wears pants.
And he does.
Oh,
but he's got like a vest.
It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't.
But then he's got a vest on top of that, which is like, that's just really open the way you're going for this. Like,
oh yeah, he's got prayer beads or something.
Yeah, like his hair is braided and stuff, like the way they, And so, like, they make it clear that he's a child of the 60s.
Yeah.
Like, very much so. But Leox Gyasi is just so great.
He's great in that, like, he's way too chill for everything that is going to happen in this story. And even when the Jedi...
Like, even at the worst situations, he's just like, we got this.
Like, even the Jedi, when they first meet him,
they take a step back.
A double take, like, okay.
They're like, this is our pilot. And it's even better when he introduces them. He's like, hey, everybody, this is the vessel. And they're like, okay, well, what's the name of the ship? I just told you.
The vessel.
The vessel. So, yes.
That didn't get confusing at all.
Well, thankfully, when you're reading
it's
italicized because it's a name of a ship.
However, we'll have to be very carefully avoiding that word.
We'll just say, if we're talking about it as a ship, we'll say the spaceship.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the name of it, we'll say the vessel.
Yeah.
So, yes, the crew of the vessel is some of the best I think they are the best characters of this book.
We're going to go...
So, I guess we'll go to Affy next.
Yeah, Affy.
So, after Leox kind of introduces, he's like, this is our ship. And Affy comes, like, out.
Affy is like...
So she's like she's a year older than...
strict businesswoman.
Yeah, because she's a year older than Reed.
Leox's southern hippie.
Yeah, Leox in the audiobook sounds like Woody Harrelson with a bit of more southern drawl to it. If you can kind of put that in your head. And so,
I'm sorry.
It's kind of it makes me upset that Woody Harrelson already exists in the Star Wars universe because he's in Solo. Because I would love to see him as Leox.
Oh, man. So, yeah, there's Affy, and she is very much like, all right, get on the ship.
Yeah, she's just like, come on. She's the more serious, like, we got places to be.
She's like, we've been paid to take you guys.
Yeah.
And the longer you guys are...
here, the longer we got to be here, the less money we're making.
Yeah.
Because they work for the Bind Guild, which is important later, because it's kind of important to the High Republic era as a whole, I would argue. They're basically kind of like the Trade Federation, but more for the Outer Rim. Like, they're the Outer Rim equivalent of the Trade Federation.
Yeah.
And they kind of deal in more than that, though. Like, they got smuggling operations as well as a few other things.
I think it's even mentioned in some of the chapters. Leox is like, man, these Jedi don't need to know about any of the stuff we're carrying.
Yes, because on the ship, not that they are carrying Jedi on, which Affy is very interested in, like, how Jedi work.
Yeah.
Because she's just like, oh, I thought we had monks on the ship, but I see you're wizards, because when she sees Reed use the Force, she's like, you're more like a wizard. And he's like, well, it's a little bit of both. And she's like, oh, okay, a monk wizard. Got it.
Like, I got these weird wizard monks on the ship.
But yeah, they're like, we're carrying these wizard monks on the ship, and Leox is like, well, let's just hope that they stay away from the other part of the ship
that they don't need to know about.
That they don't need to know about because we're carrying spice.
Yeah, which, while not illegal in the Outer Rim,
is illegal in the Republic. Because they come from the parts of the Outer Rim that have not quite officially joined the Republic yet. They're like basically in talks.
Basically waiting for the paperwork to go through.
Yeah, it's kind of like the the state ratifications for the U.S. Yeah. They're waiting for that ratification to happen, but it's happening.
Yeah.
So obviously Reed sees this as a moment of, oh, I can teach them how the Republic works and how Jedi work and all that.
This will come back to bite him in the ass later.
Yeah, because he does this for basically everybody he runs into. Which
is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Because he views this as like, well, I'm a representative of the Republic, which, yes, he is.
Yeah,
as a Jedi, you are less so now in the High Republic than in the prequel era, but still, the Jedi are seen as closely related to the Republic during this era, but not to the same degree as prequel. Because at this point, the Jedi have a little bit more, like, free reign from
Yeah.
the Republic. Like senators aren't telling them what to do like they are in the prequels.
Oh, okay. That brings us to our last crew member.
Yeah, so
Geode.
the best crew member, Geode, who is where to start with this man? So
Let's start with the fact that I thought it was an astromech droid for like half the book.
Even though they explain what
Even
he
though
is.
they explain it, I still didn't believe him.
Yeah.
Until it was like, all right, I guess they're actually telling the truth.
Yeah. So he is a Ventian from the planet Vent, which is an alien race that looks like rocks.
Mm-hmm.
They have no face.
Yep.
So it's really just based on length of time knowing them, is what I gather. Because Affy and Leox can understand Geode pretty well. They're basically this is his added personality. Basically they tell the crew, the rest of the Jedi, don't mess with him at these points. I think the closest anybody gets, besides Reith later on in the books, is Orla. Orla kind of has a connection almost immediately and kind of understands him, and understands him even more as the book. She's very in tune with the Force. Orla is very much in tune.
Everybody, people.
Everybody else though is very skeptical. Reith is even Comac's who's kind of the smart one, and he's just
they're I guess they have a teleporting rock on their ship.
Yeah, because it
every
moves.
Time Geode moves.
Yeah, because he moves. Because he can. He's an alien race. He's a person.
Yeah.
And so he moves, but most of the time we don't see that movement. We'll just see. Oh, he's in this room now.
Yep. No explanation. He just got there.
Yeah. And he's the navigator for the ship, with Leox being the primary pilot, and Affy is kind of the co-pilot.
Yes.
And Leox is the captain. Affy is usually the voice of reason.
Yeah. Between
the three of them.
The three of them.
I would argue Geode is a voice of reason as well, but we wouldn't know. We don't hear it.
Yeah. So let's talk about their journey to Starlight Beacon, or lack thereof.
Yeah, almost a few days in, they going into hyperspace. They immediately, not even they go into hyperspace, and almost immediately, something bad happens. Yep. Something very bad happens. There is somehow debris in hyperspace.
That's a bad thing.
Very bad.
I'm trying to
because basically it's going on the interstate, because the hyperspace kind of works like an interstate. There's certain exits that you can take, and you enter the interstate only to immediately see an accident right in front of you with a bunch of cars flying just on littered across the
It's so about that trip to Starlight Beacon.
That's not happening.
We're not taking it.
Yeah, they're okay, we got to exit hyperspace early. We're going to take this exit off the interstate, because rather than, we're going to, and we can't get back on the interstate because
shit's fucked, yo.
Yeah, and we don't have enough gas to do regular real-time travel. So yeah, and so while they're in hyperspace though, they notice Affy and Leox notice something about the ship the debris.
Yeah.
It looks very similar to a Bind Guild ship.
Yeah.
Very similar.
And this kind of freaks out Affy.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
Yeah, because let's kind of explain a little bit about Affy.
Yeah, let's go into her a little bit more.
So Affy's parents worked for the Bind Guild.
Yes.
And they died.
They died.
When she was really young. And then
the head of the Bind Guild,
Scover Bind, basically the CEO and founder of Bind,
takes her in basically.
Yeah, basically adopts her. And she's I know they mentioned the alien race, but I didn't know if you looked up what did they look like.
Yeah.
It's that you remember how much of Clone Wars have you really seen? Did you see the episode that's basically Godzilla?
No.
Oh.
I know what they look like though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're kind of almost fish people with the heads are very thin looking. Yeah. It's for those of you at home who have seen Clone Wars, it's the scientists in that episode of Clone Wars. So yeah, so she's very concerned that Scover was on that ship,
and it may or may not be dead.
Yeah, because it turns out that they are correct that it is a Bind Guild ship, and in fact, it's the Legacy Run is the name of the ship, and it's a ship that Scover is known to frequent. Yeah, she goes on from time to time because it's one of her travel ships.
Affy gets to worry about losing her parents for the second time.
Yeah, for what's essentially, I would argue, almost a month.
Yeah,
because I would argue that they are out of hyperspace for a month.
Yeah,
because there's a lot that happens.
A lot happens.
So they end up
so
out of hyperspace. They immediately are like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna chill here, and they're looking over their sensors to see if there's anything nearby. They see that there's a call for help.
Yep. So
Wreath and the other Jedi, being Jedi.
Yep, they're like, we gotta save them.
Which good instincts for the most part. Like, I get it.
Yep,
you're good people. You're doing the right thing. People.
However, it is clear that horror movies do not exist in the Star Wars galaxy.
Oh, they do.
Or if they do, the Jedi are apparently not allowed to watch them.
Because they go to what is the creepiest space station ever.
Yep.
At the moment, they don't know anything about it.
But
it looks dead. It's almost it looks like the power is about to be out on this thing. I think they actually do have to look for the power.
It's either A, stay in hyperspace and definitely die, or B, go out of hyperspace into abandoned space station, basically.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that. It's get out of hyperspace.
It's basically talk about the fact that it's next to a sun.
Oh yeah,
and the solar flare problem that happens immediately once they get out, and it's a persistent problem.
Yeah,
they went from one problem to the next.
Yeah, it very much from the frying pan to the fire.
Yeah,
and they just go from that fire to the next fire.
Yeah. The good news is, though, they do save people.
Yeah, they save a good amount of people, in fact. Yeah. They save a few ships here and there, because there's a lot of other ships that are out there. And they all kind of gather to this station, because they're like, you know what, the best way to make sure everybody's safe? Go to this station, we'll all park here, and we'll kind of converge.
Wait it out, basically.
Yeah, wait it out. Because basically there is an on-air message from the Republic that's like, do not use hyperspace travel at this moment.
Yep.
It
basically stop, get out, don't.
Yeah, it's basically like when you have your car radio on and they're telling you about traffic and they're like, don't go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
coincidentally, this is also the point in where we meet Hog and
Haig and Nan. Yeah, in the audiobook it's pronounced Haig. Yeah, Haig and Nan. Haig and Nan are very interesting. They have a bit of a junker ship.
Yeah.
It's this very old man traveling. What is he like? Is he a Zabrak? I think is what they said.
So.
Yeah, he's a Zabrak.
I cannot get once again.
And he's with walking. Yeah. He has a walking stick this entire time.
Apparently.
What he's doing in space with this child that he's adopted, I have no clue.
Me either.
Well, at the moment. Anyways, we learn later.
We'll find out some stuff, but right now they're...
Yeah, but their ship is very put together.
Yeah, there's...
it looks like parts of a bunch of other ships were just kind of hot glued together.
They're held together by hot glue and duct tape.
Yeah, they are the rednecks of... Yeah.
And Nan is like, oh, thank fuck. We were super screwed out here, man.
And Wreath immediately takes this opportunity to be like, well, you can thank the Republic and the Jedi for this. And immediately starts talking about the glory of the Republic and the Jedi.
Yep.
Which, they're kind of hesitant because they're like, what? Who is this? What is this Jedi and Republic nonsense? But yeah, it takes a little convincing for them to go along with it.
So eventually, everybody gets safe and relatively sound on the Maxine station.
At the same time, though, there's a little bit of panic. There's a lot of panic because everybody's kind of shuffling, like, a lot of people don't know who everybody is. They're like, what's going on? Why are we on this station? Like, at one point, Nan gets almost kidnapped.
Yes.
And Reith has to make a very quick decision to save her.
Yeah.
And this kind of... Is that where you were going?
No, I was going to talk about Des being a moron. So basically, as they're all getting ready to go into the station itself, Des is like, yo, atmosphere is breathable. There will be no other problems while we are here. Like, he doesn't check. I mean, they're like, oh, all the power sources are out.
Yeah, because I think when they get there, not even, there isn't even gravity.
Yeah, I don't think so. But it's like, this is one of those instances where, like, Dez's master, I forgot her name.
Jorah.
Jorah would probably have chewed him out.
Yeah, she would have been like, hey, why aren't you looking at these other systems?
Yeah, but
Meanwhile,
Dez's impulsiveness will come back.
And in the same way, like, going into Jorah, Reith is concerned. Like, he's like, oh, what's going to happen with... Is my master going to worry about me not being there yet? What's going on? Yeah. Because, like, in his head, he's just like, oh, she's worried that I'm not there. But at the same time, he's kind of relieved that he's not there. Because he's like, oh, I don't have to be there yet. Sweet.
Yeah. It's that Well,
yeah, you're good.
It's that selfish, like, impulse as... Well, everybody gets.
Because he immediately starts, as a kid, when you didn't want to do something and your parents were like, oh, we're going to do this. And you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, but I'm going to complain the whole time. It's that instinct, where something goes wrong when you're doing the thing that your parents tell you to. And you instinctively go, see, this is why we shouldn't do that. And that's what Reith is going through right now. He's immediately going, I bet she's gonna regret having us go into the Outer Rim. And like it's that mindset. It's that mindset that you have as a kid where you're thinking, oh, see, my parents are gonna change their mind because now something bad happened.
I think Dez is also like, he has a very similar thing, but with Dez, it's not out of spite, for lack of a better term. It's out of boredom. Because where he was like, he was basically stationed on, like, a planet that was famous for, like, secret assassinations and stuff. And he was like, man, after the 5th wine glass poisoning, it gets real boring.
Yeah, political assassinations are just, like, same old to him at this point.
Yeah, he's bored of them.
Yeah.
He's like, creepy abandoned space station.
Finally.
Count me in.
Finally, something new. Maybe that's why he didn't check the other systems. He was hoping something would happen.
Probably. Meanwhile, Comac and
Orla are kind of
are both like, okay, we should be careful, and also having fucking Nom flashbacks.
Yeah. Oh, we should probably also kind of talk about how they're probably happy to go somewhere outside of the vessel because their room and board is just
it's
very basic. They're just like, because when they got on the ship, the crew of the vessel were like, we don't have beds, so to speak, but we've got like this empty like cargo bay area, and we got cots. You want to use those? Well, and we haven't unfolded the cots yet, so we'll do that now.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
It's very basic.
They're like, here you go, here's your bed. Like, what about blankets? They're like, you got robes.
Yeah, you're good. Maybe we'll turn the heat on. Maybe.
Yeah. So that happens. And, of course, everybody gets on the ship. And a bunch of people... station.
Well, so let's go ahead and go back a little bit to what you were saying earlier about the flashbacks. Because, I think now's a good time to kind of talk a little bit about Comac and Orla and their past 25 years ago.
So, 25 years ago...
they were on a mission together with their masters. Mm-hmm. There is a crisis going on between two planets that have kind of been feuding for a while.
Yeah.
It's very much a Hatfields and McCoy sort of situation where they've just been feuding for so long, nobody knows why.
Yeah.
And it's...
But on a planetary
scale. It's Iram and
Enora.
And so apparently two very important political officials so basically one from each planet has been kidnapped.
Yeah.
And taken to a nearby moon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the moon in the middle of these planets.
Yes.
It's a shared moon. And so immediately from the get-go, we are told, oh, this mission is not going well because Comac's master is already dead.
Yep. And they're like, we should go get the body. And I think it's Orla's master that's actually like, no, we have to leave the body.
Yeah, we need to move forward. We got a mission.
And
this is kind of where the conflict for Orla really lies, is she does not have a great relationship with her master, I would argue.
Yeah.
No. Like, most master and apprentice relationships we've seen in Star Wars have been very much a loving, like, I would say a healthy parental relationship, with the exception of Dooku and Qui-Gon. That one's a little bit unhealthy of a master and apprentice level, which we'll get to when we get to that stuff. But
what I was going to say,
this one's more of the mom that expects very high things from her daughter, and just and knows her daughter can do it, but doesn't know how to communicate that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Comac's master was apparently way too laid back.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where that is actually what got
part of the
him
conflict.
killed.
Yeah, and it's part of Comac's conflict because he's like, man, if I wasn't so laid back like my master, he wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
Like, he starts to blame himself.
Yeah. Comac blames himself for a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily his fault.
Well, because I think even at that age, he felt that he needs to be kind of a leader, and Orla and Comac have a very interesting view on, like, policies that the Jedi have.
Yeah.
Because Comac, like, I mean, one of the things in these flashbacks, it's 5 parts of flashbacks, and I guess we'll kind of just talk about them as one flashback, so that way Comac kind of has to deal with the process of, like, what he agrees with the Jedi Order when it comes to, like, feelings and emotions,
and he has a hard time, like,
he has a hard time processing, because he is dealing with his master dying, who was a father figure to him. And he kind of is angry for a little bit at the Jedi because he's like, why do they set us up with these relationships and tell us that we aren't allowed to feel what is natural to us? Like, it's natural for these relationships to build where we're father and son, or mother and daughter, or father and daughter, or whoever, whatever the combo is.
And then they tell you, don't be sad, or don't be angry
when they die, or when they die. Yeah. Like, or at the very least, control those emotions.
Yeah,
like,
and Comac's like, man, fuck this.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what he wants to say, but
but he can't, because there's another Jedi Master there.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Orla's there, who, while she agrees with Comac, she outwardly kind of tells him, she tells him the byline of what the Jedi would say. Yeah. She's just like, it's basically the script. You know, she just follows the script and is like, this is how we deal with our emotions. And he's like, yep, that's what the Jedi say. And meanwhile, Orla's like, I told him that, but I agree with what he said.
I agree with what he's saying. Although
because she's also processing, like, all this stuff. Because they're, like, in their, I would argue, like, late teens, early 20s at the point of this flashback.
Another fucking thing is, before he, like, passed, Comac's master is like, hey, maybe you should look up some of the, like, legends and stuff about this moon.
Yeah, which is part of where Comac's regrets come in. He does, but he skimmed it.
He skimmed it. This is the funniest bit of the entire situation, because the rest of it's just fucking sad.
Yeah.
But they immediately...
So one of the things he noticed he noticed in his studies is snakes are very important to the culture of the moon.
Yeah.
For Irem and Irona, like the shared moon of there, the snakes are very important to the culture. He doesn't remember why, but he's like, yeah, it's very important. And they come into this cave where they see, like, basically hieroglyphs of the snakes, and he's like, yeah, that's important somehow, but I don't remember how. And then next thing you know, basically giant snakes come out and start fighting them.
Yep.
And start trying to eat them.
And they're like, oh, that's why. It's a case of, I remember this is important, but not why, or like, I know I shouldn't go here.
Like, and
but
he
the
figured,
exact
like,
reason-
and he figured, like, for the most part, he was like, it's probably just legends, like the, but
No.
but he forgot that as an archivist and a lore guy, I forget the term for somebody who studies lore, a lorist.
A folklorist?
Yeah,
Or-
folklorist. I guess we'll go with folklorist. As a folklorist, like, legends always come from somewhere. There's
Yeah.
a grain of truth, and he realizes that. He's like, oh yeah, there's always a grain of truth to legend, and I probably should have paid more attention to the
Yeah.
snakes. And so
It becomes even funnier.
it's even funnier as we like dip out of the flashbacks and come back in.
Yeah.
Like, because they're going in and out of the flashbacks and like going back into the main story and then going back to flashbacks, and we'll come back to a flashback and they're like, man, that's like the third snake we fought.
By the time, my favorite thing is it switches over to Orla's perspective in like
Yeah.
the fourth flashback, and she's like, "This is the 6th fucking snake we've had to kill." By the way, these are not normal size snakes.
No, these are like, if you've ever seen the movie Anaconda,
yes,
it's that level.
they're like, how the fuck are snakes even here?
Yeah, because they've yet to see any other life.
Yeah,
So they're like, what is a like
carnivorous.
giant species eating?
Yeah.
I have a theory on that, by the way.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they eat each other.
Maybe that's why they're so like already at.
Yeah, like I think they at this point have started to eat each other.
Yeah.
As long as they breed quickly enough, they can get away with that.
I guess.
Because and obviously there's a lot of these things, so I can tell breeding is probably not an issue.
Oh boy.
But yeah, along with their perspectives though, we also get perspectives of the hostages during
Yeah,
this crisis.
And they're like,
So it's this noble queen. She's the one from Iram.
yeah, I think.
And
so.
she's not even the official queen. She's the because it's kind of like
Consort. I
yeah,
think.
it's the queen consort and then the queen, and she's the consort.
Yeah.
So she's like the next in line.
Oh, the guy that's
And-
kidnapped them berates his men. He's like, you assholes brought me the wrong one.
Yeah, you brought me the wrong queen. What? And so it's this Lasat that's in charge of
Yeah.
them. So it's Zeb from Rebels, the big
Yep.
big gorilla looking guy.
Uh,
So it's that, and so that makes sense probably now in your head, like when
Yep.
you picture like the stuff that he does later, because he is quick. He is on his feet very quick, and he's really good at fighting.
oh, he also chews out his guys when they're like, we only found one body, and he's like, that's bullshit. They always travel in twos.
yeah,
Keep looking.
yeah. Yeah, because they're like, oh yeah, we found a Jedi, and we managed to, we're good, right? And he's like, no, there's more, you idiots.
They wouldn't send just one.
They, even though they're not Sith, they come in twos, and in this case, fours.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he's just like, you idiots. Meanwhile, our hostages are kind of arguing over like their cultural differences,
Yep.
and they're just like, and so basically it's this queen consort, and then he's not the king. No,
Monarch Castle.
Yeah, like Monarch Castle. I guess he is the king.
Yeah.
Of Iram or Irona, and so
He's important enough that they were like, fuck it, send four. That they're like,
yeah, and so it's that I want to get the name right for her, Thandeka.
I think so, yeah.
Thandeka for the queen consort. So it's Thandeka and Castle.
Yeah.
And like
They're having like a weird
Castle-
scholarly debate.
yeah, like Castle is a little bit more respectful about it,
Yeah.
whereas Thandeka is very much bringing the insults. I would argue she's like not having any of this.
So
Like Castle is very much so like his insults are very much more like he's very what's the term I'm looking for? Subtle, I guess is a good word to put. Like his insults are very subtle. They're thinkers, and meanwhile she's just like outright like, you are the worst. Your people are the worst. F you guys.
Yeah. So they do that,
and they talk about and that's where we kind of learn they don't know why they're fighting at this point.
It has been so long they have forgotten.
Like it has been centuries of just blah 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 blah.
Yeah. So I think we should jump.
Well,
should we continue in the flashback a little bit more?
Or? We'll save the ending of the flashback because we're getting close to it. So yeah, we'll go ahead and jump back to the main story. So we going back to the main story now. We now have a little bit of perspective on Comac and Orla.
Yeah.
So there's chaos on the space station.
As it turns out, getting in a bunch of varied ethnic groups in one place that is very small.
It's gonna cause some rioting.
Yeah.
Especially when not everybody might like each other.
Yeah. I think actually two groups are already
at each other's throat. There's this nice luxury cruiser that's one of the ships there, and they immediately are ordering other ships to be like, hey, give us your food supply so that way we can start feeding our nice wealthy people what they paid for because we're running out of supplies already. Yeah. And they're like, no, these are our supplies. You can't just take our supplies just because you poorly managed yours. And on top of that, Nan is about to be kidnapped.
Oh, yeah.
Which puts Reeth into a very particular bind, which goes back to our Reeth is harsh to himself.
Yeah.
Because
I was thinking this event happens a little...
It's around this time.
The thing that I'm thinking is a little bit before that.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's one race, the Ornicans.
Oh, yeah.
Another one. And they're basically swing.
Yeah, basically.
Another
group. They're basically ready to go full West Side Story.
Yeah, and Reeth is over here. He's like, I've tried talking. It hasn't worked. Fuck it. I'm going to have to start beating the shit out of people if they don't comply. And he's like, I've never done this.
And the other Jedi are kind of in agreement. They're like, yeah, we're running out of options here.
Reeth is like, I've never laid down the law before, but I'm going to get some practice in today.
Yeah, he's like, I represent the Republic, so time for me to bring Republic law in.
That settles things down for a while.
Yeah.
And then the food dispute happens, and that one is...
It's a little bit easier. Comac kind of deals with that.
That one is eased by, Comac and Affy, who are actually very good at...
Yeah, they're basically like, nah, what we're going to do here is we're going to do like any other situation of this. We're going to portion supplies out.
I have no idea what the fuck Dez is doing at the moment.
He's kind of exploring the station.
Yeah,
that's kind of his thing. He's just, he's like... Adventure, finally.
Yeah.
Orla's kind of with Comac, trying to help keep the peace. And so eventually...
Leox and Geode.
Leox and Geode are kind of chilling on the ship.
Yeah.
They're like, let's stay on the vessel and not deal with this.
I think Affy is also, once that situation is settled,
once that's resolved, she joined. Yeah, she's gone to explore, because they're looking for power and all that other stuff. And so Nan gets kidnapped.
And
Reeth is like, I've got a lightsaber here. I see no other option. I'm about to cut some hands.
Yeah, and he does.
He cuts the hand off of this guy, and it's like, I think it's described pretty much at arm length, right here, right at the nub. And because Orla ends up checking this guy up.
Yeah.
And she's like,
they're actually the one group that...
They're the only group that gets kicked off the space station. Yeah. Because she's like, I have healed your arm the best that I could. It's thankfully cauterized because of lightsaber wound. And it's also at a good spot where you can get a nice, metallic arm if you ever invest in that. But we're not going to have you here.
And
take whatever food you... He's like, you're going to make us go out in space by ourselves where we could die? And she's like, no. We're going to give you food, and then we're going to kick you out.
Basically, yeah. She's like, you cause trouble, you got to leave.
Yeah, she's like...
That's basically the end of it.
That is the law that's being laid down. She's like, we don't have criminals harbored here.
Which is the most hilarious statement.
especially considering later events.
Yep.
But yes, so
Reith.
Eventually, like Reith
struggles. With
can we talk about how Comac eventually like brings the ultimate piece down to like where he like orders everybody to be like, hey, you've got like 10 minutes to stop fighting.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then if you are still fighting, you are getting kicked off this ship.
Yeah.
Which is why these criminals are the only guys that get kicked off, because everybody else is like, nope, we're done. And the way he does this is he uses the Force to fly.
Basically.
Like
as like a show of power.
Like a show of force. He literally he flies to the highest point.
We can't actually stop them, but if we make them think we can stop them.
And make them listen. And the benefit of being higher up in this like open space station, he has the echoing of like the ship to kind of like boom his voice more. And so that makes it even more terrifying, where they're like, I guess we'll do what the scary guy who's flying says. And of course, internally, Comac's like, please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall.
Like, I need to not fuck this up.
Because he's thinking about it. He's like, man, why is it harder to fly ourselves than it is to like lift things?
He's like, why is this the bullshit one?
Which I agree. Why can you not lift yourself as easily as you can like an object? Because it's the same idea.
I guess it's
the same idea. You're lifting the same amount of weight technically, which it doesn't even matter. You're lifting magical weight. You're using the Force. There is no weight.
I was going to say, I guess it's the difference between like picking up a phone as opposed to like a 135-pound barbell.
But at the same time, like we've seen, they can pick up ships.
Yeah. But like that doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah, they can lift a spaceship, which is definitely heavier than your average human, or any other humanoid species in the Star Wars galaxy. The only exception I can think are maybe the Hutts are about the same weight as this ship, but
okay, let's see.
But if they can lift a ship, they can lift a Hutt. So they finally kind of bring peace. Nan and Hay are safe. Nan is very grateful to Reith, who is going on about like the greatness of the Jedi,
while also being like,
and here's our strategies of like how we like operate. And Nan is like very like interested. She's asking questions, which is Reith is very happy about that.
Reith is happy,
and also he's like, oh, this girl's kind of cute, so I'm definitely gonna give more.
Nan is flirting with him.
Yeah, like he thinks she's flirting with him, and he's like, I do think she's cute, but I'm a Jedi.
He's like, I'll wait to explain the very long and complicated.
Yeah,
nature.
he's like, it would be insulting if I like just told her like I can't flirt back. Like he thinks he'd be insulting her, so he's just like, nah, I'm gonna let her flirt with me. Yeah. Which, more than likely, in Nan's mind, she was not flirting with him. She was just being nice. Yeah. She was like just being nice, which is that I think Reith was pulling that thing of, oh, girl is nice to me, therefore she's flirting with... No, she was just being nice. Although we learn later why she was being nice.
Yeah. So,
so they, as they're exploring, they eventually see like they kind of learn from the computers where this space station came from. And they're like, oh, there's this race that disappeared a long time ago called the Amaxine. Mm-hmm. This is kind of their space station. And they have this very fondness for circular like imagery.
For some reason.
Yeah, we never really learn.
Oh, so once all the crews have been like calmed down and everything. Excuse me.
No, you're
sorry. So all of the Jedi are having like fucking weird visions.
Yeah, they're having little spoopy, scary time visions.
Like, I think Comax, as he gets like swallowed by darkness. Reith's is that he gets jumped. I forgot what Orla's is. Orla's is like just endlessly drifting or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Dez is because
they don't really focus on Dez during this time.
No.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Considering what's gonna happen in like
in a few moments, really.
Yeah.
So they're kind of exploring this, and they're like, why are we getting these dark visions? And they're like, there's some really dark stuff going on here on the space station. There is a darkness here.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what this is, because if we're gonna be here for a while, we need to like figure out a way to combat this.
Yeah. So
And-
they go.
And they start exploring,
Yeah.
and they eventually find these they find this garden, this like little botanical garden that's like within the space
Oh, yeah.
station.
By the way, this space station is very like just overgrown
Yeah, like
with like plants, because they're like, at first they're like, oh, this is just some ancient aliens like overgrown garden.
yeah,
And the robots are just taking care of the plants.
Yep. which is true to a degree.
Yeah.
In fact, they upset the droids because one of them damages, like I think
Yeah.
they step on a plant,
Yeah.
and
Apparently
that
sends-
sets the droids
droids
off.
off.
They're like, "Oh, you're messing with my plants. Let's go,
We'll-
let's go."
we'll kill you.
Yeah, so they start trying to kill our Jedi, and
Yeah.
I think it's Reeth and Affy that are out and about, and Affy I think stepped on
Yeah,
something.
I think.
And so yeah, like the droids are just like, let's go, bring it.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Reeth and Affy are like, what's going on? How did this happen?
Yeah. So
So they like fight for their lives against these like they're not very big droids, but they are like they've got
but they've got like scissors and shit.
yeah, they're just like gonna cut you up.
They've got like scissors and little hacksaws, I think.
Like I imagine the little meme gif of the crab with scissors,
Something like that.
or with the knife, the crab with the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think of that. So like the little droids are just like, we're coming for you.
And so that happens, and everybody sort of like gets separated.
Yeah. Eventually, like Reeth and Des
Reeth and
and
Des.
Nan kind of regroup,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, the others are kind of finding these idols that are kind of like
They're like,
they think that's where the darkness is coming from. They're like, man, there's really darkness coming from these things.
Yep, they're like,
Like I think they study them a little bit, and they're like, they're giving us our visions,
yeah.
because this is what's causing us to have our spoopy Mormon hell dreams.
Yeah. I know that's a musical reference.
It is
I don't know to what though.
the Book of Mormon.
Oh.
But yeah, no. So yeah, they're like, yeah, this is what's giving us all those visions. Like, we need to do something
yeah.
about this.
Meanwhile, a little bit after, Des and
Des-
Reef go exploring.
Yeah, they're like,
This is the moment.
yeah, this is where things kind of go a little sideways.
So
So
Des basically ends up opening a door.
and then it
and-
shuts immediately behind him.
Yeah.
And and all Reeth sees is a flashing of light, and next thing he knows, the door opens and no more Des.
Yep. He's like,
Did Des get disintegrated?
and he's sort of like inspecting the room, and he's like, oh, these are Helix. Oh shit.
Yeah, like he thinks like some like engine thing went off that like
It basically
fried him.
disintegrated.
Yeah, like fried / disintegrated Des. And like he goes to report this, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And like
this,
like there's some sad beats of that. Like
Yeah.
everybody's kind of like, oh, that's not.
everyone is a little bit sad.
But also like Reeth is kind of skeptical. At
It's
the same
also
time, he's
like-
like, I reported this, but I'm also kind of skeptical that Des is even gone, because like there's no body. And
And he's like,
Reeth,
well,
Reeth
if
is
he
following Reeth is following movie logic. He's like, no body, no death.
He is also like, on the other hand, if he was disintegrated, there wouldn't be a body.
Yeah, and like
So-
the other Jedi are kind and like a lot of the other people, like the other crew of the vessel, are kind of like, well, we've heard that Jedi can like disappear when they die, so maybe that
Yeah.
maybe that explains the lack of a body.
Orla's like, well, this sucks, but she's not taking it as bad as Comac is.
Yeah, Comac's like, he's like, I was put in charge of these people, even though he was not.
No.
He's like, I was put in charge of these people, and now I've lost somebody.
And he's like, really? A fucking door got him?
He's like, out of all the things to get Des,
He's
because
like-
he's like, Des was this great fighter. Out of all the things that Des dies from,
He's like, Basically, that would be like if someone walked into the wrong. That's actually
Yeah.
what it is. It's like if you open the door at like specifically 1:03 in the morning at like 32 seconds, and
You're just
son
dead. You just dropped dead.
just fucking died.
Like nobody killed you. You just dropped dead.
Yeah. He's like, this is bullshit.
He's like, this is not how a great Jedi like Dez should die. What is going on? And of course, so with Reeth's instinctiveness a little bit, he's picking up a little bit off of it. Like Dez is rubbed off on him a little at this point, and Reeth is like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and explore this. And Nan's like, I'll go with you.
No, isn't I'll go with you. It's when he gets down there, she's there.
Oh yeah, she's already there.
And
she's
scares
already
the shit
Yeah,
out of
that's
him.
right. She's like, hey, how you doing? He's like, and she's like,
he almost stabs her.
and she's like, hey, whoa, chill. I'm just checking out what you are. I overheard you talking about how you don't think he's dead, so I followed your instinct on that. And, and so he's like, oh, okay. And, like, they don't really find anything new. Like, they're just kind of like...
he's like, I guess he's dead.
Yeah, like, that's kind of the acceptance at this point.
Yeah. I think at this point, he's also... Dez actually is the one that sits down and has the talk with Reeth about, like, look, man, you cut off a guy's arm, you did what you had to do.
Yeah, like earlier, So earlier, let's kind of go back before the death of Dez. Yeah, you bring up a good point. Like, it's an important conversation because it goes back to what we were talking about where Reeth is very hard on himself.
He's like, don't judge yourself too harshly.
Yeah, because Reeth is like, I cut a guy's arm off. And he's like, well, you did proportionate.
Yeah,
you did
the right thing.
He's like, you did proportionate, what was proportionate to the risk. He's like, all you did, the man got away with his life, which is like...
More than most people can say.
And like, Orla even says it's more than he deserved.
Yeah.
Like,
if Orla had been there, she would have killed the both.
Yeah, look at her lightsaber. She'd do it. She got that cool, like, double-bladed lightsaber that folds.
Yeah.
But yeah, she'd do it.
Like, and Dez's...
She'd do it in a heartbeat.
I don't know about Comac. Comac was looking at the statues, I think.
Yeah, so like, at this point, they're, like, trying to figure out the mystery of the statues. And they're like, well, I guess... And at this point, both Comac and Reeth come up with the same idea at the same time, because Reeth is talking to Nan while trying to figure out what's going on with what happened to Dez, and Reeth is like, oh, I have a solution about those statues because of something you said.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, I just thought of, like, my studies from the libraries on Coruscant. And he goes back, and it turns out Comac had the exact same idea. They'll do basically a force suppression thing on the statues that will suppress the dark side long enough for them to take them with them onto the vessel and fly back to Coruscant with it. And hopefully then the Jedi Council can do something about it.
That's basically what they do.
And that's basically the plan.
Yeah.
And so it takes all three now.
Yeah,
all three of the Jedi to do this successfully.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Reeth and Comac already know it. So, like, Comac's, like, explaining it, and Reeth's like, oh, I already know how to do this. You're good. And he's like, oh, well, then I guess we're just explaining it for Orla.
Yeah.
Because Orla's like, well, I'm kind of like Dez. I'm the fighter of this situation. Like Orla's like the medic fighter. Yeah, she's she's the cleric.
Orla's flaw, or at least what she thinks it is she's like, I didn't listen
to the Force enough when I was younger.
Like, my instincts.
Yeah, her instincts.
Even though they were usually spot on.
Yeah, and that's part of that flashback where
we'll get back to.
Well, we can talk a little bit about it because we talked about this relationship already between her and her master.
Yeah.
Because her master was a little bit the reason her master was very strict on her was because her master was like, no, you got to follow the Jedi Order's tenets very strictly, and you got to do this and this and this to be the perfect Jedi, and your instincts do not follow that whatsoever. And she's like, but my instinct, we're taught to follow the Force, and the Force is generally speaks to us through our instincts. So shouldn't I follow my instincts?
Yeah.
And like 9 times out of 10, when she ignores her instincts, something bad happens. Yeah. And so that's why she took the path of the Wayseeker. She's like,
yeah, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, she takes the path of the Wayseeker because she kind of regrets not doing that when she was younger. And she's now like, now I'm gonna follow the Force strictly.
Yep. So
we can kind of like skip ahead a bit now because I think
So,
we're getting to the point where like they're getting ready to leave the space station. So they've managed to suppress the artifacts, and Leox is like, "You're putting these things on my ship?"
Leox is like, no.
I don't know
I
about
don't
like this
wanna
is one of
do
the few times where Leox is just kind of like
he's like, no, we're not.
like he's
I
ready to
really
put his
don't
foot
want
down,
to, man.
but at the same time he's like, I guess we're gonna have to.
Yeah,
because
he's like, as long as they don't find out about all the drugs I'm carrying.
Yeah, as long as they don't find out about that, we're good.
Yeah.
So he takes them aboard. Everybody says their goodbyes because at this point they've gotten the clear that most of hyperspace is clear. It's still very dangerous. Like there's still a good bit of debris.
Basically, the Republic government has stitched together a safe way home.
Yeah, and they basically said, "Hey, only use this if absolutely necessary. No non-necessary hyperspace travel," is basically what they say. So, and they're like, "Okay, well, going home is necessary, so we'll do that."
Yeah.
And so they're like, "We're just gonna go back to Coruscant." Meanwhile, Nan and Hager like, "Oh well, we'll stick around because we got to finish repairing our ship, and then
we'll head out."
Then we'll head out. And so Reith gives his goodbyes, and he's just like, "Oh, and by the way, like we couldn't have worked out because I'm a Jedi."
And leaves.
And Nan's like, "What? I wasn't flirting with you."
Oh.
Yeah, like he totally...
Reith goes through the ringer in this one.
Yeah, because he's thinking about that on the ship. He's like, "Oh, you're right. Yeah." Like he starts to think back and he's like, yeah, no, that wasn't flirting.
Yeah. So,
he's also happy that they're going back to Coruscant. Yeah. Like he's like...
He actually makes a log
he makes
his master. Of course, he deletes it.
Yeah, he does a little like mission log, like Star Trek style, where he's like, "Here is my mission report of everything that went down and why we should not go to the Outer Rim." And then he's like, "But I also know like I can't change your mind, so I'm just gonna delete this."
Yeah,
because it's one of those. It's very much one of those things where when you're having an argument with your parent, you internalize the argument.
Yeah,
and you come up with a solution in your head. You're like, "This is what I should have said," and then you're like, "But I'm not going to say it because it's past that point."
Yeah, there's no point with...
Like, at that point, you're like, everything's settled. I don't want to get back into that argument.
Yeah.
Also, we forgot a very key thing.
Oh, fuck, that's right. I forgot Affy's part of the plot.
No. We forgot a very key thing to Reith's story. The Jedi Archway.
Why does no... That's the question his master, like, gives him before...
So at the end of the prologue, when he's, like, complaining about, like, going to the Outer Rim, Jorah gives him this, like, riddle, essentially, and goes, "Here's a little problem for you to solve, and when you solve it, you'll understand why we're going to the Outer Rim." And she says, "Why can no Jedi cross the Kyber Archway alone?" And Reith is internalizing this throughout the entirety of the book.
And he's like, "What the fuck?
What kind of question is that?" He's like, "I've seen Jedi do it. I've seen them go across by themselves. It's not a big deal." And then he's even asking other Jedi.
Like he asked Des, and Des is like, "I don't fucking know,
Des
man."
is like, "That's a dumb question. I don't get it either."
Des is like, "What the fuck?"
But at the
She's
same,
like,
but then
she has a reason.
Yeah, he's at the same time like, "It's a dumb question, but she must have a reason to ask it." And so going back to Affy's stuff.
So it turns out Affy, of course, in the month they had, did some exploring.
Yeah, and oh boy,
man, did she find some shit.
So she found out that there is some secret smuggling operations going on through the Amaxine station that work for the Bind Guild. Mm-hmm. Apparently, some Bind Guild pilots have been using Amaxine station as kind of a quick jump-off point to kind of shortcut their routes.
Yeah.
And they sign off with these, like, secret... Like, they have this secret coding that they use to communicate. And Affy's like, "Oh, there's, like, some like top level conspiracy going on within the Bind Guild.
At first, she thinks it's like something to overthrow Scover, or
Yeah,
like adopted mom.
yeah, and so that she doesn't.
So she and
Leox are kind of exploring this, and Leox is like, "Nah, I don't think that's what it is. I think there's more to it." And Leox definitely knows what's going on. He just doesn't want to say yet.
He's like, I don't.
He's like, I don't think she can handle it.
The conversation and spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it anyways.
How do you explain to your adopted, like, someone's daughter, hey, your mom's a fucking slaver, by the way?
But legally, like she's a legal slaver.
That doesn't make it much...
Because indentured servitude.
That doesn't make it
No, it doesn't make it better. But it's like, how do you explain that?
Yeah, like...
The woman that you love, who you think might be dead right now.
Yeah. Like, say your mom is dead.
Hi, Mom.
This is a hypothetical, miss. I don't...
No, you're
Imagine, like, your uncle or something, like Leox.
Yeah,
I guess.
Because
we'll say Leox
I would argue that Leox is like an uncle figure to her because he has like the little bit nickname that annoys the crap out of her.
And he goes, by the way, your mom would send people on basically suicide missions so that they could get out of slavery early.
Yeah, like it cuts their time of indentured servitude.
Yeah.
Like I think it's 7, like they take off 7 years or something like that. They take off a lot.
Yeah.
For doing it. But at the risk of dying.
Yeah. And it's like,
because you're going near that sun.
Yeah.
And that's the danger of it.
What the fuck? So Affy gets to live with that while she's on Coruscant.
Well, because basically while she's on Coruscant, so before they reach Coruscant, they get some good news, and some bad news. Mm-hmm. So the good news is Scover's alive.
Yes,
because they figure out what ship she was on. She wasn't on the Legacy run.
No, she wasn't.
Well, actually, they don't figure out what ship yet, but they figure out she wasn't on Legacy Run because the Legacy Run's like basically the papers come out and are like, here's all the people that died, and here's the people that like lived, like because there are people that survived the Legacy Run destruction. It's something we'll get into when we read Light of the Jedi. So, so they get to Coruscant. And everybody goes their separate ways. Leox and Geode are like, we're just going to chill here on the vessel and kind of just do whatever. Yeah. And Affy's like, well, I'm going to go look for my mom. Yeah. And the Jedi are like, we're going to deal with the Jedi Council. Yeah. So basically the party is split.
The party splits. So Comac, Orla, and Reith.
Well, they all have like a big meeting
They have a big meeting.
Where it's basically like, hey, here's our mission report of everything that went down during during the dark hours, which they sent most of it ahead. Yeah. And because the Jedi Council's like, we read your report, and anything extra, okay, cool, glad we managed to deal with this dark side artifact. We're gonna study it a little more, and we'll take it to like where we put other dark side artifacts.
Because they have a spot for that.
Yeah, it's in the Jedi archives. It's deep in the Jedi archives. Yeah. It's basically
basically in the Jedi basement.
Yeah, it's in the Forbidden Wings. It's basically only Jedi Council members can go there. Yeah, which is for the best.
So there is some bad news.
Yes, Jor Mali's dead.
Yeah,
and this breaks Reith.
Yeah, Reith is...
Because Reith was happy at first. He's like, sweet, I'm back on Coruscant.
He finds it out basically as he's like helping people in the hospital.
Yeah, because he's like helping people that are kind of recovering from like the destruction of everything that's been going on in the hyperspace ring. Because the hospitals on Coruscant are busy. Because there's people that are coming back to Coruscant with injuries.
I'm going to mention this as a casual aside. He does save a baby Wookiee and reunite with its family. So go
yeah. So before they reach Coruscant, there's that destruction of a ship. Yeah. That's right. And so before they reach Coruscant,
one brief moment of happiness in this otherwise very sad and fucked up story.
They're like, hey, let's save. They managed to save everybody on that ship. And so they're like, and Cormac's like, oh, because like they're looking around and like Reith saves this baby Wookiee who's like holding tight to him and like pulling on him, and he's like, stop, and the Wookiee's like,
Like, I think the Wookiee actually yanks out his like Padawan
yeah,
braid.
his little Padawan braid. Yeah, he's like, well, I guess I got to regrow that. And so and then he hands the baby off to Orla, and at that point, Comac's like, hey. Has anybody seen like a baby Wookiee? We got two parents that are looking for it, and Reith is like, hey, does it look like this? And he describes the baby Wookiee he saved, and Comac's like, oh yeah, and he's like, good, I have that, and Comac's like, oh, great, no more death, sweet, because Comac is still recovering.
Comac is, god damn,
like basically the rest of this book, Comac is just recovering from Dez.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Jorah Molly is...
a lot of these people go to the hospital,
Yeah.
and along with a lot of other people that have. And Reith is like, well, I'm a Jedi, so I'm gonna help, and he
does.
He like force heals somebody, and and then the doctor comes up to him and is like, hey, the robot is like, do you need some help? And he's like, no, I'm here to help. Don't worry, I'm a Jedi. And so he's like doing all that, and he's like. Oh, and what documentation of like this stuff is going on? Who all survived? Because like at this point he's hearing about this battle with like Nihil. He's learning about the Nihil a little bit, and he's like, oh, is my master in the injured report? And it's like, nope. And he's like, sweet. And then it's like immediately as he's like thinking, sweet, my master's fine. It's like because she died.
It's like he flips, or he either flips the page or is like told, oh nope. Well, they're not injured. They're killed in action.
Yeah, the way Claudia describes it in the book is she says, for the brief, like, before the brief moment of his smile is finished happening, he immediately hears, because she's dead, and immediately flips. Like, man.
Damn.
And he's like...
Killed off in less than a sentence.
Yeah, and they explain that the report came from Skier.
Who is also another like Jedi master.
Yeah, who's supposed to be like
just doesn't lie or anything.
No, and he knows that Skier is reliable, and Skier was supposed to be like her basically right hand man on the Starlight Beacon. So obviously now they're looking for a replacement of who to run Starlight Beacon.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff in Light of the Jedi, but we get a little hint of it at the end of this book.
Yeah.
Because the end of this book kind of literally ends at the same spot that Light of the Jedi ends. So. All the Phase 1, all the Wave 1 books actually end right at the same spot. But yeah, so
that happens, and Reith is
out
of commission.
Yeah, because in that, like, he has a private meeting with the council who are like, so we don't know what to do with you yet. We're gonna let you decide. Basically, let us know when you're ready to study again, and we'll figure out your master situation then.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's like, well, I guess. So let's jump. Go ahead.
This is a minor detail.
Yeah.
In that he gets really pissed off, because basically his room gets reassigned.
Yeah.
And he's like a
little bit
man,
of
I hate this fucking new room they put me in.
Yeah, it's a little bit of his like, this is my room, but not my room. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you've been gone for a month. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Like things went down.
Yeah.
And so let's go back to Affy, I think. And so Affy discovers that her mom is alive because she goes through the Bind Guild records.
She's really happy about that.
Yeah, she goes through the Bind Guild records, figure out, hey, I know what ship my mom was on, and she's here on Coruscant. Yeah. Even better, I can have a conversation with my mom and tell her about this conspiracy I uncovered.
Yeah. I think she has like ice cream.
Yeah, it's basically ice
shit.
cream. It's basically ice cream. Like it's described exactly as ice cream, like or gelato.
Something
like it's like it's either gelato or ice cream. It's very much that.
Yeah, and she like keeps telling Scover like, "There's a conspiracy. You gotta watch out."
And she's like, "No, we're good. Nobody." And it's very like Affy's kind of off. Like,
she's like, "Why does she not care?"
Yeah. And she's like, and so Scover's just like, hey, it's good. Look, we're going to go ahead and reassign you to a better ship because, the vessel was only supposed to be a short time. Because let's talk a little bit about Affy's past beyond the mother stuff. Like, because she was adopted by Scover, a lot of the Bind Guild did not take her either. They either didn't take her seriously because she was a child.
Yeah.
Or they didn't take her seriously because they were like, oh, she's adopted by Scover.
Not a fan of nepotism.
Yeah,
apparently.
nepotism, yeah. and they think nepotism. But in reality, all Affy has done is
She's like,
kind of proved
I
herself.
just want to learn.
I just want to learn. I want to prove myself. And so she's tried going on ships. Like, she was like on a big ship at one point and did not work out. And eventually she got transferred to the vessel, which is the first time she felt like it was home.
Yeah.
Because Leox was like, all right, here's how you do it. And he was like,
Do
all right, do it. And then Affy did it, and he was like, all right, you didn't quite get it right, but here's what you did wrong. But other than that, you're good.
You did well enough.
Yeah, you did well enough, but from now on, we'll just let Geo do it.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh. Usually I'm used to, like, either them babying me or, like, being, like, overly critical. So, like...
It's like, thank you, first fucking reasonable teacher.
Yeah. Like, and it's also weird because, like, Leox, in a way, does treat her like a child, though, because he, like, tries to avoid, like, sex talk.
He's like, I don't
even though, like, he doesn't really have... He's asexual, so, like, like...
He actually no, he does have the conversation with Affy about that, and he's like, I tried it, it's not for me.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, not for me. Also, like, but at the same time, like, it's weird talking to you about this because I think you're a kid, little bit. And she's like, man, stop calling me that.
Yeah. So that Geo has
also
a party, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Geo's like, I'm partying.
I don't know what Geo does a lot.
Yeah, Geo apparently, like, went off. Apparently, he left the ship to go, like, gamble. And, like, he went to the casinos and he's like, I'm going to have fun while I'm on Coruscant.
Yeah.
And so, like, Leox is like, what are you going to do? Geo gonna geode.
Yeah. Meanwhile.
But, yeah, so Affy goes back and tells Leox what's going down. And he's like, I guess I should tell you.
Yeah.
Like, because she kind of finds...
This point,
yeah, at this point...
Affy actually, like, basically breaks into her mom's computer.
Yeah, she hacks...
Discovers
computer, her data pad, and is like, all right, what secret articles are going on here?
Yeah.
And she finds out about the indentured servitude, and then finds out the worst piece of news she ever could have got, which we'll come back to.
Yeah.
I would like to leave that at a cliffhanger.
Meanwhile, with our Jedi Masters, they realize they have made a grave error in judgment.
Yeah, so they realize they didn't take the Sith artifact. They took the dark side thing. No, they didn't take the dark side artifact. They took the thing that was stopping the dark side.
And they go, oh, fuck.
Yeah, because they're like, wait, so we suppressed the suppressor. Crap.
Oh, shit, we broke the lock.
And so they're like, well, we got to do something about this. We got to bring it back. And the Jedi Council was like, hold on, we can't risk we can't do that. We can't risk that. It's important that we bring it back, but there's a lot going on that we just can't risk it right now. Because the hyperspace lanes are still dangerous. We've lost some Jedi already to the Nihil fights, and the Nihil are really the big issue at the moment.
Oh yeah, Reith
is realizing a lot of that because he goes to an actual war room meeting essentially.
Yeah.
Where basically it's basically Nihil 101, and the Jedi one of the Jedi Council members is like, these are the Nihil. This is what they look like. They have paint on their face where they have blue paint, which is important. They also have ships that they kind of just cobble together because they can lock together kind of like a Voltron.
Yeah. And he's like,
that sounds familiar. And then he starts to think about it, and he realizes, wait a minute, there was some blue in Nan's hair. What? Oh, she got rid of the paint. Oh, no. And then he realizes the cobbled together ship, and he's like, I have made a grave error.
Oh, fuck. And I told her exactly how we worked.
Yep, and I left her on a space station that's potentially a critical location to have.
Yeah. And so he's like, well, shit, now what?
So then he goes
to all of the other things.
So then he goes to the Jedi Council member who's doing this war room meeting and is like, hey, so I ran into... in the middle of this meeting, he raises his hand and is like, hey, I ran into some... And they're like, wait, what?
They're like, yeah.
And he and because it throws off everybody, because they're like it's almost like when you go into a classroom and you're really smart and you're like, oh, I've got the answer to this impossible question. And the other students look at you like, what? And even the teacher's like, "What?" And so he explains it, and he's like, "Yeah, so this is exactly what happened on the Maxine station." And the Jedi Council member's like, "Yeah, that fits." And so,
Like, he actually pulls up basically a picture
Yeah,
of their ship,
yeah.
and, like, it's it right
he
next
puts it,
to
yeah.
it.
It's basically like when he puts it onto their computer, and he's like, "Here's what it looks like," and he takes over their PowerPoint, and he's like, "This is the ship I came across," and they're like, "Yeah, that's one of their ships." And so Reethus has like a double moment of reasoning behind why he wants to go back, because he's like both angry,
Yeah.
but he realizes that he shouldn't be. He's like, I shouldn't, that shouldn't be the reason I do this. And he's like, and then his second reason is like, because it's the right thing to do, because I have to make sure that the information I gave them cannot be used.
Yeah.
So like, and that's the really main reason that he decides.
Yeah.
Like he fights his anger, and he's like, nope, we're gonna go with the main reason. And he presents it to the Jedi Council member, and he's like, so I need to do this, and they're like, no, you're a Padawan, and you don't even have a master anymore. We can't even, we're not even letting regular Jedi masters run off. No way we're letting a Padawan run off.
Yeah.
And so, meanwhile, at that point, so Comac and Orla had their meeting with the Jedi Council members where they said, nah, you can't go. Orla is like, I'm going anyways. And Comac's like, nah, we can't go. And Orla's like, I'm doing it. And she runs off to go get, and then like eventually once they leave, she's like, why didn't you back me up in there? And Comac's like, because it's how you go about not following the Jedi Council that matters. It's not the, like, we can break what the Jedi Council is saying, but it's how you do that.
Yeah.
Because he's like, because they technically didn't say that, because they said that, because technically the way the Jedi Council gave the wording is they didn't actually directly say it is forbidden for you to go. They said, we just don't want you to go.
Yeah.
And so Comac's like, there's the loophole.
That's not a no.
That's not a no, so it must be a yes. And Orla's like, oh, okay. And so, like,
Comac fucking goes over to Reeth, actually, as Reeth is, like,
meanwhile,
reading or something.
So, yeah, he goes to go get Reeth. And meanwhile, Orla, basically the Jedi Council trusted Orla and Comac to bring the artifacts, to bring the idols to, like, to the library to be studied. Instead, Orla's like, all right, we're taking it back to the vessel. And Comac's like, all right, I'm going to get back up.
Yep.
And so Comac goes over to go get Reeth, and they're both like, we gotta, it's almost like one of those moments in the film where they say the same thing at the same time of like an idea to go back somewhere. And they're like, we gotta go back. And they're like, wait, why do you gotta go back? Why do you gotta go back?
Like, the actual, I think, exchange is like, Reeth's on like a computer or some shit, and Comac like is looming over his shoulder, and he's like, look, man, this one, I'm already using this. Oh, hi, teacher.
Yeah, because he's studying the library computer, and he's like, because he's using like his important desk that he likes to, basically he reserved a desk.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's another like student like trying to take the seat, and he's like, nah, I'm like already using this. Occupado.
And Comac's like, hey kid,
I'm not here for
your fucking chair. We have an important.
We have a bigger issue. Because Reeth wanted to go back, but he was like gave up because like he's a Padawan. He's like, what am I gonna do about this? And Comac's like, no, we can leave. We're just gonna leave.
Yeah.
And Comac and Reeth is like, we can do that. He's like, worst case scenario, they'll just get a little bit mad at us. They won't.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'll deal with it. I'll deal with the repercussions.
It's like when your dad's like, don't tell your mother.
Yeah, don't tell your mom.
And so, that's basically what it is.
Yeah. So they go off and they go meet up. At this point, Affy has let's come back to so Affy's discovery.
Yeah.
So the important discovery that she made, other than the fact that Scover is the one behind all these secret runs to Amaxine Station and indentured servitude, is that her parents died because of them taking this route.
Yeah. It is, of all the twists and turns, this one's one of those ones where I'm like, all right. You already put me through the ringer, Miss Claudia. Why'd you have to do this?
Claudia Gray is so good at putting us through the ringer, which we're gonna get. Claudia, never hold back your punches. I love it, but I also hate it.
Fuck you for making me feel emotions, goddammit. However, Celiax is like...
Yeah, because she goes to Leox and it's like, so she is distraught.
She is like...
She feels...
Divine Guild uses indentured servants.
And he's like, and that's when he's like, yeah.
He's like, he doesn't even, for some reason...
Like, no effect whatsoever on his face. He's just like, yeah, I knew that. And she's like, she gets really angry at this. Like, this is probably the angriest we see Affy in the novel. And she and rightfully so. She feels kind of upset that Leox lied by omission.
Yeah.
And she's like, and then she finally drops the ball. Like, she really drops the big hammer on him and is like, and this is how my parents died, by the way. And that's when Leox is like, oh. Because and Leox feels for her because, like, honestly, he's more of a dad, like a parent, than Scover.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like Leox is the one responsible adult in their group that doesn't have, like, long-standing psychological issues he needs to deal with.
Yeah, because we never really learn much about Leox's past. He's kind of like the only character that's like not scarred in the past.
He's also the...
Leox and Reith are really the only ones with, before the starts of the novel, have no, like, trauma going in.
And Geode as well.
Geode as far as we know.
Yeah.
Everybody else, though, very trauma-heavy characters.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think that's what makes everybody well-rounded, though, in the cast, is like, these are very understandable, like, situations that they're put in, where you're like, I can see your situation, and I can feel for that.
Yeah.
Very much. So, after this, Affy's like, all right, well, we need to figure out how to deal with Scover. And Leox is like, well, we could just report her. And Affy's like, no. We're gonna convince. I want to try to convince her to stop this myself, because she doesn't want to put Scover in jail.
Yeah.
Because she's like, it's still my mom.
I think she's also like, I need evidence.
Yeah. I think she's in a bit of denial, though.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, this is my mom still. I don't want her.
I don't think she's...
That's at least how it presented to me.
I didn't see it as, like, her being in denial of it. She's like, here is the proof.
Yeah, but, well, in denial in the sense of, like, she didn't want Scover to be the big bad guy still. Even though she knew the information and knew the facts, she was like, I know. She was like, I think I can change Scover's mind.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to talk to Scover one more time before we go, because we're going to go back to the Maxine station, and then we're gonna get that proof, and then I'm gonna present the proof to Scover and be like, here's your last chance.
Yeah.
So she goes to talk to Scover one more time, and Scover's like, all right, so what's your decision regarding, what we talked about last time of you, like, going to be a bigger pilot, and on top of that, she's like, and she's like, no, I'm going with the vessel because I kind of like them.
Yeah.
So, and she's like, in fact, I got a transport right now. I got people that have paid for another job. So, in fact, I'm going to do that now.
Yeah.
Which, and I think in reality at this point they have already paid. I think, which we're going to reveal, because that's a funny moment. So Affy goes back and is like, all right, let's go. And at this point, as she's like finishing packing, Comac and Reith finally show up, and they're like, hey, we want to purchase your vessel to go back to a Maxine station, which Affy's like, well, we're already going that way, but somebody already paid us. And they're like, what? Who? And then Orla pops up and is like, hey, I already brought the idols and paid. Did I forget to mention that they're coming with? And Affy's like, yeah.
Yeah.
You forgot to mention.
That.
But she's like, the more the better.
Fuck it at this point.
Because she just figures, hey, more Jedi will make this trip easier.
Yep.
Ooh. This trip.
Oh, shit.
All right. So, immediately upon getting... Well, first off, when in hyperspace, they realize, oh, there's still a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Secondly, they finally get to a Maxine station to see that there's a lot of ships at this point.
Yeah.
Basically, Voltron is formed. There's a lot of Voltron ships just connected to each other, and they're like docked, like either in the process of docking or docked to, like, I think they're in the process at this point. They're in the process of docking. They haven't docked yet, but like they see this giant like mega ship that's formed by
Nihil are fucking here, and it's like an entire battalion.
Yeah, they have a term for it. It's their entire storm.
Yeah.
Because the Nihil love their hurricane kind of metaphors. Because you've got the Eye, who's the leader, and then you've got the
and they're all there.
You got your Tempests that are your leaders, and
the crew of the vessel, and our party is like, oh fuck, man.
Now what? And they're like,
okay, maybe we can just sneak by them.
Which they do.
They do that. There is an additional problem when they get on the station. So, Caleb, I was not expecting evil Swamp Thing people in Star Wars.
So before this book came out, there was a short story collection that was like a bunch of like dark, basically tales from the dark side sort of deal, and one of them was about these creatures. And so, like, it's supposed to be like a Legends book, so like Legends within canon sort of deal. So it's like these are the like scary campfire stories you would hear. To find out they are real and they are a major part of the High Republic era. Oh boy.
Yeah, that was scary.
Well, let's build up their reveal because they don't immediately run into these things. So, so they're like, so they decide to split the party again because that has worked out so well for them so far. Dez is like, all right, no, sorry, he's not. He's dead. Wreath is like, I'm gonna go split this way and kind of figure out, make sure everything's clear, make sure that because I'm dealing with the Nihil. That's my mission.
Yeah.
Comac and Orla are like, all right, well, we're going to bring the idols back to where they were and try to undo our little spell that we did on them, and hopefully that'll fix things.
Yeah.
Because that's the plan, is bring the idols back, undo the
seal
suppression
on the seal.
Yeah, undo the seal on the seal and hope that the original seal works.
Yeah.
And then and Leox and Geode are chilling on the ship, and Affy is like, all right, I'm going to go look for evidence.
Yeah. So they go.
So, like, we got, like, 4 different groups that we're following.
Yeah.
And so, let's do Wreaths.
So, Wreath.
Because I think Wreaths is the most... I think they're all interesting, but I think Wreaths is the most interesting.
Yeah.
So, Wreath, it happens to go through a similar area to where Dez died.
Yeah. And he doesn't, at first, like...
Well, before that, I think he does run into Nan.
Yeah.
So on his way, like, exploring, he's listening out for Nihil, and he's like, where's Nan? Where's Nan? Where's Nan? And the next thing you know, Nan's behind him.
Yeah.
Has a gun to his head. And it's like, all right, I'm giving you this once to leave, because thanks for all the information, and thanks for saving my life from slavers. That gives you one.
You get one.
You get one.
Go.
And Wreath's
I
like,
will kill you next time,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, it's not even basically. She straight up is like, I'm going to kill you next time. And Wreath's like, okay. Thanks. Warning taken. And he's also like, did you mean any of, like, our conversation? Like, this is his, like, moment of being like, did you mean any of, like, our conversation? Did you actually, like...
I forgot what her fucking answer.
It was like somewhere in the middle. Like she's like
yes and no.
She's like, yeah, like I thought. I mean, you weren't a terrible person, but I also like I'm a Nihil and you're a Jedi. What we were never gonna like be buddies.
It was never gonna work out.
We were never gonna be friends.
Yeah. He was like, oh, all right, thanks, goodbye.
So
he wanders into a room that looks suspiciously like the one
where Dez died.
And
so he walks in like an idiot.
Yep.
Door shuts behind him, just like Dez.
Yep.
And then the flashing bright light happens. And then next thing he realizes is he's looking out a window through the door that closed behind him, and he's in hyperspace.
Yep.
Turns out it's a pod.
Yeah. So my favorite.
It's basically an
line-
escape pod that's like equipped with a hyperdrive.
Yeah. I think my favorite line of any of the chapters in these books is where eventually they do reveal that, of course, Dez isn't
Dez
dead.
is obviously alive because obviously he went through the same thing.
Yeah. And it's Dez's last conscious thought was, that door's about to hit me square in the face. Or something like that. I don't know. What is it with these Force-sensitive people and getting hit by, like, everyday objects?
Yeah, it's great. So, yeah.
However, to be honest, I feel bad for Dez.
Yeah, so let's kind of get to that then. So Reith lands on this planet.
Yeah.
Because basically he comes out of hyperdrive, sees he's over a planet, and the ship and the pod immediately gets caught into a tractor beam, which safely guides him to the planet.
Yeah.
And he sees the other pod, and he's like, oh, this must be where Dez landed. And he starts to kind of explore the area, and he's like, oh, there's a computer system here, so there must be a way to send the pods back. So that's good. So I can at least go back. And he also notices, like, a lot of circles, and he's like, oh, this must be in a Maxine planet, because they love their circles.
Yep.
And so, meanwhile, turns out Dez has been, like, drugged and everything.
Dez has been drugged and tortured.
Like, force suppressed and, like,
and
mind tricked and all that.
Mind tricked. For about a month straight.
Yeah. To the point where he doesn't even really remember who he is.
Yeah.
Let alone where he is or why he's here and what happened.
Yeah.
And so Reith, while exploring the planet, discovers these plant creatures that look exactly like some of the plants that were in the space station.
Yeah.
He's like, oh,
so these ones talk and are apparently carnivorous.
Yeah, because all of a sudden,
and very angry.
Because he feels the dark side. Like, one of the first things he immediately senses is a presence, and he turns and he's like, oh, there's nothing there. And then, like, the next moment, these creatures that are like grass, like trees and plant vines creatures are standing up with guns pointed at them. Which I think that's a funny imagery of thinking of Dringer with guns. And he learns that their names are Dringer because he, like, kind of, like, they have, like, a force connection, like, because they're not really talking.
I just assumed that they were talking amongst themselves, but they were just like, he's not important, so they would just say everything out loud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They kind of have their language, though, but, like, I always assumed that, like, he used the force to kind of understand that language, like, instinctually.
Yeah.
Because, like, ancient...
Yeah,
alien creature.
Why else would he know their language?
Ancient alien creature, yeah.
Why would they speak Galactic Basic?
Yeah. So, like, these... So, he basically learns, oh, these are Dringer. These are the dark side things that we've been sensing on the station.
Mm-hmm.
Those relics must have been there to hold them off. That's why they weren't moving or anything when we were on the space station. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so... Oh... Funny thing about that, by the way, the Jedi Council, when they were talking to the Jedi Council members about the idols with Comac and Orla, they were like, yeah, if you had just done the ritual on the idols a day sooner, like the day, because they did it the day they left.
Mm-hmm.
If you had done it like a day before you left, then you would have realized your mistake before you left and you would have been able to undo it. And they were like, yeah, we probably should have done that.
Yep.
Probably shouldn't have waited till the last day. It's like when you wait till the last day to pack for a big trip and you forget something.
Yeah, don't do that. Plan in advance.
Yeah. And so, yeah, going back to... So, Reith's like, all right, well, bring me... Like, he uses the Force and he's like... And that's why I always think that... That's why I always interpret it as him understanding them because of the Force. He immediately uses a Force and tries to, like, almost mind trick them, but not quite. And is like...
That's one of the things that he also complains about in the book. He's like, I don't fucking understand how some people can just instantly do it.
Yeah, like, and mind tricks.
Yeah. And others have, like, it takes years to master.
Yeah. And so he, like, tries to mind trick them, and he's like,
and it's
bring me Des Ryden.
It's one of the ones that he's, like, really bad at.
Yeah, it's one of the few skills he's not great at. And so, yeah, he tries to do it, and they're like, okay.
Okay.
And they turn around
They're
and go
like,
to leave.
Oh, we'll bring you, Des Ryden.
And he's like, awesome, we're going to get out of here. Meanwhile, in reality, Des is so high, like, whatever, like, intoxicated, I guess, and, like, brainwashed and everything. Like, they're just like, all right. They bring Des weapons and are like, you're going to go, like, they give him his lightsaber back, and they're like, you're going to go kill the other intruder. And he's like, all right, I'm going to kill the other intruder.
Yeah. I think if it had been fucking anybody else, they probably would have lost.
And probably would have died.
Yeah.
Like, Des would not have realized his mistake if it wasn't Reeth.
Yeah.
I think Reeth's the only one that could have got him out of that moment.
If it wasn't Reeth and, like...
Because Des is in a pretty dark place at this point.
Yeah.
Which, understandable. It's not entirely his fault. Like, but it's not even really his fault at all.
It's not his fault.
Well,
he
got him, he did get him, like, his nature got him into the trouble.
His nature got him into trouble, but, like, the
extent of it is not his fault, yes.
Like, once again, he just opened a door. That's all he did.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything evil. He opened a door.
True. So you don't think he should have done what he does at the end then?
No, actually, I agree with that. He's like...
Oh, okay. We'll talk about what he did at the end when we get there. So, yeah. So, Reeth is like, oh, sweet, Des, you're here. And Des is immediately like, you must die.
Yeah, so they have their battle, and Reeth is like, oh, fuck, I didn't sign up for this today.
And he's like, well, it's a good... Like you said, Reeth's probably the only one that would have survived this. And even Reeth's like, I'm probably the only one that would have survived this because I've trained with him enough. It's probably a good thing I trained with him.
It's a good thing I trained with the best guy in our class because nobody else would have. He's like, thank God Des convinced me to get into the dueling class.
Yeah, because originally he hated it.
Yeah. Because he's like, very few Jedi actually
duel. Because there's no Sith at this time.
Yeah. And he's like, basically...
Or at least publicly, there's no Sith.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rule 2 it's like going on, but there's no public Sith.
Yeah. And basically, he's like, he does use the sparring droid, and they're like, he sets it at 6, which I guess was the last thing before he left and came back from a Maxine station. And it's like, you should probably start at 7 next time.
Yeah.
And he's like, a little bit of improvement.
Yeah. You know. And so Des manages to be pulled out by Reeth eventually, like, because Reeth mentions like, "Hey, it's me, Des. Des, it's me, Reeth. What are you doing?" And like, eventually he pulls him out of it after like a good bit of fighting, like, and they're both just exhausted after a certain point. And also Reeth is at this point realizing, "Oh, I guess my mind trick didn't work. I'm not good at mind tricks."
Yeah, They do manage to get out of there, but it's...
Yeah, they have to run.
They have to run.
And so, yeah, they take one of the pods back.
Yep.
And so...
And the Dringir are like, we'll take the other one.
We'll figure this out.
Yeah, they figure it out pretty quick, too.
Meanwhile, back on the space station, Orla and Comac are dealing with their own Dringir problem because they're realizing the same thing that Reeth did. Because they're going through the garden, and they're like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Dringers start immediately attacking them.
Yeah, they do sick the gardening robots on them.
Yeah, which, hey, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
We should talk about earlier of how like Reeth and Nan discovered how to get through the garden without being harmed. Their solution is to
basically
cut one of the flowers. Well, like they don't cut it. Sorry, they pull it out of the actual ground, making sure it's still in the roots and everything, and they like kind of carry it.
Yep.
And they're just like, we've got one of your friends hostage, essentially.
Yeah. We're taking
your plant hostage.
That's actually, I think, the exact quote from Affy. They're like, we're taking plants hostage now? They're like, yeah.
Yeah, you know, what works. But
meanwhile,
speaking of those droids, though, Orla realizes, oh, these droids don't count the Dringir as their plant buddies, even though they're plant-like creatures.
Yeah.
They count them as like us. And
so if we convince if we get them to like trample on the flowers or something.
Or if I can like mess with the coding on the droids, then hey. And so Orla jumps on a droid and is like, well, I can't do the coding because it's really hard. So I guess we'll have to get them to mess with it. And
Plan B
works.
Yep.
Yeah, the Drinker messed up.
Yep.
And
it's
it's also at that point where they realize some of the weaknesses to the Drinker. They're like, oh, if we cut fast enough,
they have a hard time healing.
Because the problem that Comac and Orla were dealing with is anytime they'd cut the Drinker, they basically just would reform.
Yeah.
They're basically like Venom. Yeah.
You have to cut them so much.
Yeah. So Orla Orla goes at it.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
and also Comac is before that because I know you want to go to Affy.
I do.
Comac also realizes like what Reith did. He's like, oh, this is the danger. And like, I think there was something else that was involved with that he realized, but I can't think of it now. But like, yeah. So they managed to get past the garden, and also that's about when they run into Reith and Dez.
Yeah.
And Reith's like, Reith and Comac on the same page are like, hey, this is what's going on. Oh, you already know. Perfect.
Good.
Like talking to each other at the same time almost.
Good. Can we get Dez out of here?
Also, Dez is alive.
He's like super fucked up, man.
And so they realize also that like, yeah, these idols are not going to work. That's the other thing they realize. That's it. At that point, Comac's like, undoing these idols like suppression thing is not going to stop these things.
Yeah,
it's too late. We done messed up.
Yeah.
The best we can do at this point is keep them on the space station somehow.
Yeah.
Which means we got to get rid of the Nihil.
I suppose now.
So now we can jump to Affy.
Yeah. So Affy originally was going basically to go and get the evidence. And I think she got like enough, but she's like, I want to go get more to make sure. And it has gotten to the point like she's already encountered Nihil and had
at this point the Nihil have docked and there's a few scuffles that have happened.
It gets to the point where Leox is
worried.
Leox is worried, and that's a bad sign. Because throughout the whole book,
it's very rare.
Yeah, throughout the whole book, he's been pretty calm. He picks up a gun.
Also rare.
It is like, okay, I have to go get her. Otherwise, she is more than likely going to die, basically.
Yeah.
And so he goes, and he's like, man, I don't want to fight any Nihil. And he goes, and he just sneaks around, basically. And he has to convince Alfie.
Yeah, Affy needs some convincing.
Yeah, to basically, he's like, you're not doing this for X, Y, and Z reasons.
You being alive matters more.
Yeah, get down here. We have to go.
Which he doesn't really convince her until she finally finds the evidence anyways. Like, she finds the evidence.
Yeah.
As, who runs into Haig first? Was it her? Because Haig is also going about the ship.
Haig, I think, is encountered by Orla?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So let's kind of go back to the Nan and Reith conversation.
Yeah.
Because there's some info that, like, because Reith is also like, so how much of, like, your past that you told me is true? Because Nan told him, my parents died in a raid, and Haig took me in. And Reith always assumed, oh, okay, that's the situation. So now Reith assumes, oh, did something happen to your family during a raid, and then the Nihil took you in? And she's like, no. My family was always Nihil, and then they died as Nihil, and then Haig took me in. Which is honestly the worst situation. Like, that's the worst answer.
Yeah,
like,
I knew my parents were bad people.
Like, this is the worst answer Reith could have heard.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm proud that they were fucking evil.
Yeah. She's like, I'm proud of what they did. And she's like, I also learned how to fight really well because I had to learn how to fight as a child that nobody, like, I knew I wasn't going to be very big. And so I learned...
Who better to learn from than someone
who's really old and also has to be sneaky.
Yeah.
So...
Like, I think Haig gets both the jump on...
He gets the jump on the Jedi.
On Comac and Orla.
Yeah. Like, Comac gets his ass handed to him by Haig.
Yeah.
Orla's really the one that does, because Orla kills.
I don't think Haig is dead. I think he, like, environment forces them to.
Yeah, I'm double
flee.
checking because I thought he was dead, but we can continue while I'm double checking myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have their confrontation.
They have their confrontation. I don't think anyone actually dies during it.
Yeah. No, he dies on a Maxine station. Oh. That's right. It's not during this fight. It's later. I remember now. So, obviously, everybody gets separated because Reith comes up with this plan that he's like, all right, I'm going to lock everything down. Everybody else needs to get to the ship.
Yeah.
And that's basically the plan. Lock everything down, make sure the Nihil are forced to basically undock, and basically make it to where this space station cannot be used ever again, essentially.
Yep.
So everybody's like, all right, that's the plan. And so everybody gets onto the ship. And that's when Haig finds Reith. Yeah, and it's like after Reith has basically given this big sacrifice speech where he's like, all right, guys, like he calls the vessel, and Leox is there, and he's like, hey, so whatever happens at this point, just go without me whether I'm there or not. And Leox is like, well, we would, but we can't because the Drengir are holding on to the vessel.
They're like, we can't go fucking anywhere.
Like,
there are roots.
They are holding us, literally. And so Reith's like, well, I didn't think of that. I guess I'm going to have to go deal with that.
Yeah.
And so that's when he runs into Haig, and Haig and him have a little bit of a duke it out. Not going great for Reith once again.
Don't fuck with old men in professions where most die young.
And so Reith at the last minute has this great idea of how he's going to get onto the vessel, because at this point the vessel is kind of starting to get away, and it's starting to leave the space station. And Reith's like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to jump for it. So he opens the airlock, which kills Haig, because Haig goes out.
Oh, okay. I was like, nobody directly kills
It's not directly.
him.
It's not directly, but Haig's dead.
I was like, yeah.
Because I remember Haig being dead, because that's very important to Nan. Nan's character arc is very... Because at the end of this book... Yeah. And so, Reith jumps...
He almost
makes it, but he's short.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the best hero of this book is here to save him. Geode. Geode managed to grab him at the last minute with something like he just reached out.
Yeah.
Like his rocky body was there to like catch him.
Yep.
So,
and I think like,
and that's when Reith realizes, oh, I guess Geode is like an actual living being.
Yep.
and that's also like when he starts to have a better force connection with Geode and kind of realizes. And so he's like very grateful. So everybody escapes. They were just like, all right, we got to leave. That's the best we can do. And even the Nihil are like, well, this is useless now. The space station is completely useless to us. So we'll leave.
Basically because we've been like, hey, you know those fucking pods that can work in hyperspace? Not anymore, motherfucker.
Yeah, because he like disabled them and shot them away.
Yep.
And
it's like, y'all are
gone.
Staying here.
The most useful thing about the space station.
Yep.
Because they could go anywhere.
Yeah.
They just were programmed specifically to go to and from that planet at the time.
If they could be programmed then, they could be programmed again.
Yeah. So that's why Maxine Station was very important and dangerous. Which also Reith figures out, oh, so that's why Nan was exploring earlier. She figured out what was going on.
Yeah.
She figured out that, oh, these were pods, not... And she must have figured out Des didn't die way before everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And Nan's fate for the rest of the book is up in the air.
Yeah, well, at the end of the book, she returns to the Nihil.
Are you counting the...
I'm counting the epilogue.
No, I'm thinking the sneak preview.
Was that in the?
That was in the digital copy. I don't know if it's in that one.
Was her visit to Markion part of Out of the Shadow, or was that the epilogue? No, it's part of the final chapter.
Okay.
I'm only counting. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, at the final chapter.
Yeah.
So Nan goes back to the Nihil.
Yeah.
And is face to face with the Eye.
She's like,
Markion Ro.
Yo,
Jedi are dangerous.
They're dangerous as shit,
and
the rumors were true.
And I hate them, and we're gonna deal with them. And Markion's like, perfect, I hate them too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she kind of almost, like, gains a lot of, like, respect from the leader of the Nihil.
Yeah.
Putting her almost in a Tempest status, almost. She's not quite a Tempest.
I don't know the ranking.
It's I, and then you've got the 3 Tempests. We'll explore that more in Light of the Jedi. I'm not gonna reveal it too much.
I'll learn.
Yeah, we'll learn it. And so I guess let's kind of that's Nan's wrap up. Let's kind of go. I think we'll do Affy's next.
Yeah. So Affy
has all this evidence now.
All this evidence, and she's like,
I'm gonna give Scover one more chance.
One more chance. And she goes and she mulls
and she goes there, has some ice cream again. Because like Scover's like, I remember how much you liked ice cream. We're gonna do it again. And she's like, okay. And Scover's like, she's like, money's really important to a business.
Yeah.
And she's like, and you're gonna be like the next in line. And Affy's like, yeah, but family's also important. And she's like, Scover's like, yeah, family's important, but money's more important.
Yeah.
And that's when Affy's like, fuck me.
And then I'm sorry, I skipped a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
So now she's got all this evidence, and she's like, so here are my options.
Oh, yeah.
I can go now.
Just straight up turn her in.
Straight up turn her in. Or I can wait till I inherit it in order to make things better.
Yes. After this discussion with Scover,
yeah.
she starts to immediately think this over. She's like, so I can either wait till I inherit and I can fix it from the inside, or I can report her right now. Because at this point, she's realizing fixing Scover's a lost cause.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's one of those options.
And so
she
like,
comes,
although I can wait,
these people that are suffering can't. Yeah, like because there's people that have decades of indentured servitude underneath them. Some of these people are gonna die before they get out of it.
Yeah.
Affy realizes this cost, and she's like, I can't do that.
And so she goes
basically to.
She is worried that she's gonna get left out of the building, but no.
Yeah, she basically goes to what's essentially the Star Wars version of the Better Business Bureau / the FTC, like.
And she's like, at first she's like super worried that they're gonna just be like, write down a report, we'll get to it.
They're just no, they immediately do an arrest.
And she's like, I'm gonna have to tell her
that I was behind that
it was me.
Yeah, because she watches it on
like her
on the HoloNet, and she watches it. Yeah, she watches it live as like Scover gets arrested. Yeah. Like they immediately do it, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't expect him to do it that way. I expected like a really long drawn out process."
Nope.
Because once again, this is the Republic at its height when it's in a golden era before a lot of the corruption. So I would argue in the prequel era, she would be correct. If this was prequel era Star Wars Republic, absolutely, there would be so much red tape. I think Scover would have got away with it.
Probably, yeah.
But since we're in the High Republic era, Scover's out of there.
Yeah.
And so she joins back up with the with Leox, where going back to the vessel, where Leox is talking to this official who's like, all right, it's no longer Bind Guild property because all the Bind Guild assets have been essentially frozen.
Yeah.
And so we have to give everybody their ships that belongs to the people the actual pilots.
Yeah.
And so they're like, you're the captain on the paper here, so it must be your ship. And Leox, as Affy walks up, is like, no, it's her ship. I'm just the captain.
Yeah.
I'm just the pilot. And Affy's like, what? And he's like, yeah, because you're technically higher ranked than me, so it makes sense. So, yeah, you're the boss now. And she's like, oh, well, and like she feels a lot of gratitude. Because going back to that relationship between her and the vessel crew, it's Leox showing her a lot of respect that she wouldn't get anywhere else. because of her age and because of
Yeah.
viewed nepotism that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
And and she's very grateful. And then, of course, at the end of that scene, we get a little joke because she's like, well, hopefully now I can get rid of that nickname. And he's like, no, it's even better now. Now it's better that you're my boss because now it's ironic. All right, so let's go ahead and
let's go talk about
Comac and Orla. I think actually we need to finish their flashback.
Finish the flashback. So
they're
flashback.
They
time,
make it to the
after
rescue.
Killing their fucking 7th snake in a row.
They finally make it to the location where these two are being held hostage.
And they've and the hostages have sort of.
They've found like almost a middle ground.
And Thendeka are like being like, why if we had just set aside our differences
and kind of talk like we're doing now.
We wouldn't be having this fucking problem.
Because they start talking about how they're like, oh yeah, we love... They start finding common ground because they talk about like how they both enjoy parties and stuff, like, and how they love like dressing up for the occasion.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, if we get out of this alive, we should totally like do a party together.
Yeah.
And so, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So the Jedi come in to save the day, which the Lasat is like, nah, not a great thing for you.
About that,
the Lasat pulls out a gun, and
the Jedi,
they're pretty quick.
They're pretty quick, but Orla has an instinct. She's like, I
should go for the Lasat
immediately.
But her master says, no, go for the hostages.
Yeah,
save them.
And in this one instance,
so she uncuts the hostages, frees them, but the Lasat fires his gun.
Yep. And Monarch
and Castle he jumps into the way.
Shield.
Yeah, he jumps into the way of the shot that was intended for Thendeka and saves her and dies in her place. And he's like, and Thendeka breaks down.
Yeah.
She starts crying over this man that she's only known for a few hours.
Yeah.
And hated when she first met him.
Yeah. And
now she's crying over this man. And Thendeka and so
it's because Castle wasn't like an asshole or anything.
And it's because she finally sees him as a human, and he sees her as a human. Well,
a person.
They see each other as people. And Castle makes her promise, hey, to have that party still, go fix the damage between our people. And Thendeka says, yeah.
Yeah, and a little bit of a flash forward. She makes it happen.
Yeah, she does make it happen. Because we see her at the ceremony for Starlight Beacon.
Yeah. And so that's why Comac and Orla have some fucking issues.
Yeah, that's why Orla took the path of the Wayseeker, because she's like, I cannot do this anymore because I need to follow the will of the Force, because she blames herself for the death of, Meanwhile, her master Lorette is just like, nope, you did what you could.
I don't know what happened to Master Lorette.
Yeah, we know, as far as we were concerned, she's still alive, because
she's somewhere.
We do not have word of like her dying or anything. So
let's go.
I was just double checking that actually. So yeah,
let's go focus on our.
So let's focus on
let's focus on our boys.
Reeth and Dez. So they kind of have a chance to rest.
Yeah.
And Reeth kind of breaks the news to Dez of what happened. And Dez has also had time to himself, because he's been in the hospital for a few weeks now at this point.
Yeah.
And he's finally allowed visitors, and Reeth
hasn't requested.
Yeah, and Reeth is kind of hesitant. He's like,
it takes 3 days, and finally Reeth is like, you know what?
I'm just gonna do it. I need to talk to him and tell him.
Talk to him.
And so he breaks the news. Master died.
And so they spend a day or two just discussing things and
reminiscing of the past.
Yeah.
And also by this point, Reeth is almost at solving the riddle.
Yeah.
In fact, he's figured out the solution.
Yeah.
Because at the space station, the second time he figured it out, but he's yet to say what it is.
Yeah.
And so he has a realization, and when he's talking to Dez, and is like, I know what I'm going to do now. Also, I haven't talked to the Jedi Council since, Like, the Jedi Council had a meeting with everybody about what went down, but he hasn't had a meeting with them regarding his situation.
Yeah.
So the Jedi Council reprimand them, but it's more of like a finger wagging where they're like, just don't do it again.
Yeah.
And they're like, because you technically didn't break the rules, but you also did go rogue a little bit, but everybody made it out for alive, and you did go for the right reasons. You didn't, like, it wasn't like you went off and killed people.
It's a case of like, I'm mad at you, but you did do the right thing.
Yeah. So it was more of like, we were worried about your safety. Just don't do that.
Yeah. And
of course Reith was sweating the whole time. He's like,
I'm so gonna die.
He thought he was gonna get kicked out of the order.
Yeah.
And
Comac and Orla are like, just don't.
They're just like, they're just like, this is another Tuesday.
Like, this happens all the time.
Yeah. And so Reith is relieved. And then as they're leaving, the council's like, oh, by the way, you never got back to us about your thing. And he's like, yeah, I still don't know yet.
Yeah.
And so after talking to Dez, he finally figures out what he's going to do.
I suppose Dez is also like, look, man.
Dez has also come up with what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've had some time to think. I went into a really dark place, and I need to take some time to better myself.
Yeah.
And so he takes the Baresh vow.
Yeah.
Which is essentially self-exile almost.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much a...
And Reith is taken aback. He's like...
That's normally like somebody that did some really messed up stuff that does that. And he's like, you didn't do anything.
And he's like, no, man.
Like, he's like, no, I went to a really dark place. I need to deal with my demons.
He's like, listen, man, you weren't fucking tortured and drugged for a month.
Yeah. He's like, I have some demons I need to battle. Even if it wasn't because of my own actions, I still need to deal with those.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so I guess that comes to the question is, do you think...
I think he's right to do it. Like, that's a rough thing to go through, and he's like, it might take me
I think it's harsh, but it's the right thing. Like,
I don't think it's harsh at all.
Well, because I don't think he... Like you said, he didn't do anything wrong. I would argue that... Because I think the Jedi Council was willing to take him back with open arms.
Yeah, they were, and he's like, that's not what I need right now. It's just like, considering that it's normally used as a punishment, he's like, no, I'm going to use it as a healing technique instead.
Yeah. Yep. So, it's our first in the chronological order of seeing a Baresh vow taken. Because we will see it at least one more time currently until more stuff is published. At the time of this video, there's only one other instance of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so Reith is like, okay, well, if you're willing to do the right thing, I have to do the right thing, and I need to agree to go into the Outer Rim, and I think I know how I can do that.
Yeah.
So, he finds Comac.
Yeah.
And Comac is like in the library studying and doing whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'm just going to come out and say it. Do you want to be my master?
And Comac's like, man, I have fucked up bad so many times.
Maybe he's like, I don't know if I deserve an apprentice. I don't know what I do. But at the end, he's like, but you know what? Maybe an apprentice is what I need. Maybe I need an extra insight. And you can teach me to be a better Jedi, and I teach you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he accepts it. And he kind of asks, hey, so what kind of brought you to this conclusion? That because Reith mentions that, hey, you're going to the Outer Rim, so it makes sense, because you're going to be stationed near Starlight Beacon. I told the Jedi Council, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So you might as well. It makes sense for us to just travel together anyways. And so Comac's like, well, what made you finally come to the conclusion of doing this thing? So he figured out the answer to the riddle.
Yeah.
The reason that no Jedi can pass the Kyber Bridge, the Kyber Archway alone, is because they always carry the Jedi with them. Because the Kyber is the Kyber Archway is forged from Kyber crystals of previous alive, like dead Jedi.
Yeah.
Jedi who have gone on to be one with the Force. So the answer is you're never alone because you're carrying the other Jedi. You're always with your fellow Jedi
Yeah.
because they're with you in spirit. And so that's the answer.
It was
And
never about physically doing it alone.
no, it's the answer is you're always with your fellow Jedi. You're never alone. And that's very comforting.
Yeah.
And I think it's a comforting ending for this
very
book.
Dark book. Like,
I think it's
gets
the ending
put through the ringer.
Yeah, I think everybody
but
gets the ending.
They come out better for it.
Yes. Even the villains, Nan comes out better for it, at least for Nan's perspective.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, on an outsider's perspective, she's now in a worse place because now she's even deeper into the Nihil hole. But
from her perspective,
it's better.
Good.
And so I think, the book did what it needed to for these characters. So that was Into the Dark.
Into the Dark. Whew. I think I don't know how long it's been since we've started.
We're still so we are 2.5 hours into the podcast.
Oh man.
So we probably talked about this an hour and a half.
Okay.
So I guess at this point, quick last thoughts. What'd you think? Rating?
Assuming
I already say this is my 9 out of 10 book. Claudia might just be that for me though. Like I think every Claudia book is like near perfect for me.
Started me off with fucking.
I threw you that one. I know. It's just she's really like I know. We started with a good book, Ronan, and now we jump to another good book.
I'm gonna say 8.5.
Okay.
I give it an 8.5 out of 10.
So I'll never say 10. I'm gonna say that now because things always can improve, and that's why it's the best that I can give it. And I think, So I guess now we have to discuss the awkwardness of our next book.
All right.
So, while I said the premise is that we're going through things chronologically, this is where I throw Seth through the ringer.
Yep.
We are going to be talking about things as they come out if they're new. And Fallen Star came out this past Tuesday.
Oh, man.
So it's already old news, sort of, like, at least in TikTok terms, which I'm on TikTok. So a lot of people are already talking about... I have not been spoiled yet. People have been vague enough. So we might still be on perfect time to talk about it. But yeah, next week we're talking about Star Wars: The High Republic, The Fallen Star, which is the third book in the adult novels. It is part of, so we are skipping the first 2 books of the adult novels, the second book of the young adult novels, and the first 2 books of the junior novels, and some of the comics, and we're just jumping right into the finale of Phase 1.
Okay.
The good news is, because I presented you the digital copy of it already.
All right.
Well, I don't think I posted it yet, but I have it, and I skimmed a little bit of it while I was getting it for you, and familiar characters show up, so you won't be completely lost. I saw our boy Geode in there. I saw Affy, so basically the vessel crew's there, and I think that Wreath and them are going to show up as well. The other good news is it's another Claudia Gray book, so
oh boy,
so expect good writing. And also expect your emotions to be thrown in a roller coaster.
All right.
Maybe not as much, because there might be some characters you're not as attached to yet. And I think that's going to be the one downside to the order of this.
Yeah.
I think that might be the one downside. But I think it's also going to be interesting to watch you read this out of order. I think entertainment value kind of trumps your connection to the characters.
We're like...
But don't worry. Okay. Immediately after this, I think we go back on schedule. I'll check the schedule again.
All right.
But yeah, so our next book is The Fallen Star. So check us out next week when we review The Fallen Star.
Yeah.
So we can put this one down. And I guess now we can do a little bit of closing. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
Unless you have any last...
You know what? Remember what I said.
Oh, yeah. Last... Yeah. What we talked about just before.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our. Sorry, now that threw me off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Forgot.
Yeah, so I'm going to go in the order.
Okay.
Thank you guys for watching. Be sure, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on Twitch, subscribe and follow and subscribe. And and that's, of course, if you really like our content, you'd be subscribing on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, you can watch us on Twitch through twitch.tv/CJ Star Wars 94. If you're on Twitch, you can watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/Escape Reality Films. If you're on either of those, you can also support us by going to patreon.com/Escape Reality Films, where if you select our second tier, you can watch content a week early. If you're in our first tier, you get joined into our Discord where you can hang out with us, and we can talk Star Wars or whatever. And then, oh yeah, so special thanks to Mopcast Network for providing us this studio. You can watch their podcast on youtube.com/Mopcast Network, where they have Cult Movie Cantina and Star Wars, My Star Wars Life, which I'm a part of both of those. I produce for those, so you can enjoy those there. And then if you're in the Mobile area, check out Gamers and Geeks. They have provided us with the location for the studio. They are a gaming store where you can get your tabletop games, your Magic the Gathering cards. They also have a little arcade in the back that you can pay $10 for a full day's experience of just playing games for free. You just pay the $10 and you can play whatever arcade game you want for the day, and with no extra cost. And they do they have different days for events. They have Magic on Friday. They got D&D on Sunday. They got D&D event, like the official D&D Adventures Guild or whatever it's called on Sundays. So they got different things going on. Sometimes they'll have conventions. The other thing for the channel, be sure to check us out. If you are following us on YouTube and Twitch, you probably already get the notifications for it. But on Fridays, we have live streams where we are starting our Tales of the Jedi tabletop game. We started our first session last night. And that was a good time. On Mondays, on Mondays we have another tabletop game I'm going to start soon, which is on this upcoming Monday, which is going to be a D&D 5e game that takes place in Theros. It's going to have pirates and all that fun stuff. And then you've also, on Wednesday, I'll be starting a new show. It's going to be a podcast that's Escape Reality Movie Talk with me and a friend, and I'm gonna make her watch some movies. But we start we're gonna have the premiere episode Wednesday, and every other day is me doing a normal video game stream on Twitch. YouTube, you get those later. You get them as the VODs. Am I forgetting everything? Was that it?
Nope, I think you got everything.
All right,
go check them out.
Yeah,
you know you want to.
Yeah, come on, you know you want to. We're just full of nerdy stuff here.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and may the Force be with you.